Chapter 1501. A couple of days later, Xiao Yan, who had been wildly hurrying along the flowing fire plains, finally landed on a barren, red-colored rock peak. He turned his head and saw 3 auras swiftly chasing over from the edge of his sight. From the looks of it, they would arrive at this place within a short while. These fellows really refused to give up on their evil intentions. Xiao Yan knit his brows slightly when he sensed the 3 auras. The thoughts in his heart quickly changed. After which, he waved his hand and the dark black tent in front of him swiftly agglomerated. Soon after, it gradually agglomerated into a square-shaped cage under his control. The space within it was torn apart and a cluster of wild and violent lightning yuan appeared. When Lei Yuan was exposed, the 3 people in the distance who were swiftly chasing over also discovered it at the same time. Immediately, the speed at which they charged forward increased. Within a short couple of breaths, they had already appeared in the empty space less than 1,000 feet in front of Xiao Yan. There were 3 people who had arrived. One of them was a strong man while the other 2 were old men. Their strengths were around that of a 5-star Yuan Zun. Xiao Yan was able to recognize these 3 people at a glance. They were the ones who had bid for Lei Yuan during the auction at the Lava Castle a couple of days ago. Moreover, these 3 people were lightning affinity experts. It was unexpected that they would follow him all the way here after leaving the Lava Castle. Hee, after chasing for a few days, you finally stopped. Among the 3 of them, a relatively short old man spoke slowly. His tone was rather awe-inspiring. Little friend, this old man can sense that your aura is incomparably blazing. You should be a cultivator of the fire attribute. The value of this thunder yuan will be greatly reduced if it falls into your hands. Why don't you give it to us? This old man has some medicinal pills that can help cultivators of the fire attribute. At most, I will give it to you. The other old man appeared to be a little more courteous. However, that pair of eyes revealed a greed that caused Xiao Yan to curl his mouth and laugh. Sorry, I don't want to give the lightning yuan to others. Does that mean we can't come to an agreement? The burly man sneered in a deep voice. He looked at Xiao Yan with a particularly vicious expression as a murderous intent spread. Brat, the 3 of us have been chasing you for a few days. We've already given you a chance. Since you're unwilling, don't blame us for being ruthless. Genesis Chi erupted from the trio's bodies. Given their strength, they were naturally able to tell that the person before them was merely a 4-star Genesis ancestor. Such a cultivation level might be extraordinary amongst the younger generation, but against the 3 of them, the former had absolutely no chance of victory. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes when he saw the 3 of them revealing such an attitude. He coldly laughed. Sirs, the 3 of you teamed up against me. Even if you win, there's only 1 thunder yuan. How should we split it? Humph. Don't think about how to drive a wedge between us. Hand over Lei Yuan as soon as possible, and we'll leave your corpse intact. That short, small, old man let out a sinister laugh in a hoarse voice. The 3 of them moved in unison and unceremoniously charged at Xiao Yan from all directions. Xiao Yan merely laughed coldly when he saw the 3 of them being unceremonious. A murderous intent surged within his smile. A thought passed through his heart and the space beside him flashed. The Northern King quickly appeared by his side. Immediately, Xiao Yan pressed the lightning yuan in his hand into the Northern King's body in front of the stunned eyes of the 3 of them. Brat, are you crazy? When they saw this crazy scene, the expressions of the 3 changed drastically. However, just as they were about to retreat, a frightening thunderbolt energy suddenly shot out from within the Northern King's body. The 3 of them were the first to be blasted back by 1,000 feet. When they steadied themselves and looked again, they saw that the puppet was wrapped in thunderbolt energy. Even they could not help but tremble in fear when they saw such a powerful force. This puppet can devour thunderbolt power. Damn it, this is going to be troublesome. Based on the power that the puppet has unleashed, it's likely comparable to an 8-star source sect. We've underestimated him. Upon seeing that Lei Yuan had already merged with the Northern King, the short old man and the other old man exchanged a look. After gauging the gap between the 2 parties, they decisively chose to retreat. Only the burly man stared at Xiao Yan with a sinister expression. His face twitched when he sensed the 2 rapidly retreating figures on his left and right. Humph! What a coward! This puppet is even more valuable than Lei Yuan. If we can kill that brat. Before he could finish cursing, The Northern King abruptly transformed into a thunderbolt under Xiao Yan's control and instantly closed in on the burly man. The burly man swiftly reacted, swiftly circulating his Genesis Chi to defend himself. However, he was still viciously sent flying by the Northern King's leg. By the time he came to a stop, half of his clothes had already been torn to shreds by the thunderbolt. The terrifying force of the blow numbed his entire body. Only then did he fully awaken. He hatefully gritted his teeth and swiftly fled. Upon seeing the trio swiftly leave, Xiao Yan let out a chuckle and summoned the Northern King back. There was not the slightest trace of worry on his face as he sensed the thunderbolt power wreaking havoc in the puppet's body. Instead, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. The thunderbolt power contained within Lei Yuan is truly tremendous. In such a short period of time, the Northern King's strength has already reached the 8-star source ancestor stage. If he can completely absorb it, he should be able to advance to the 9-star source ancestor stage. As Xiao Yan's gaze swept across the Northern King's body, he discovered that while the Northern King's strength continued to rise, the number of scales covering his body had also increased. With the exception of his arms and 2 ribs, the rest of the Northern King's body was now covered in dragon scales. From the looks of it, it would not be long before his entire body was covered in dragon scales. Dragon scales were not only a symbol of status to the dragon clan, but also extremely powerful defensive properties. Take Xiao Yan's Dragon Phoenix Ancient Armor for example. Even at his current cultivation level, the Dragon Phoenix Ancient Armor's defensive power could not be underestimated. However, no one knew what strange things would happen once the Northern King's body was covered in dragon scales. After staying on the mountain peak for half a day, the berserk Lei Yuan within the Northern King's body gradually calmed down. At this point, the Northern King's strength was already nearing the intermediate 8-star source ancestor stage. The rest could only wait until he slowly absorbed it. After dealing with Lei Yuan, Xiao Yan's next target was naturally the Fire Banyan Ruins. Xiao Yan had been traveling in the opposite direction from Qin Yan for the past few days. It would not be easy to catch up to him in a short period of time. After a simple adjustment, Xiao Yan glanced at the scarlet sky in the depths of the plains. The tip of his foot gently pushed off the ground as his body charged forward. However, in the next instant, the sounds of battle suddenly rang out from the plains to his right. Amidst the intense battle, 2 indescribable auras caused Xiao Yan's expression to change slightly. Chapter 1502. Yellow winds swept across the vast scarlet plains, filling the air with a desolate aura that was faintly mixed with the smell of blood. Ch. Several whooshing sounds rang out in the air as 4 figures gathered together from different directions, ultimately forming an encirclement. Behind these 4, another gust of wind rang out as a 5th person swiftly charged out from their encirclement and landed on the ground. When he lifted his head, his gaze filled with mockery landed on the scarlet-haired man and woman opposite him. The latter 2 were currently covered in wounds of various sizes, and their auras had been reduced by more than half. They were clearly arrows at the end of their flight. While they were filled with anxiety in the face of the encirclement, there was also unwillingness and anger in their eyes. Haha, you still want to run at a time like this? Why don't you obediently give in and save this young master some effort? The young man looked at the 2 people in front of him with a relaxed expression. His slightly colorful gaze slowly swept across the young girl's delicate body. Then, his body flashed and instantly appeared in front of the young girl. He raised his hand and grabbed the young girl's face. Bastard, stop right there. It was only when the young man made his move that the other man realized what was happening. He hurriedly circulated the little remaining Genesis Chi in his body, and blasted it towards the young man with all his might. However, the young man's methods were even more ruthless. A fair hand viciously grabbed the man's throat the moment he made his move. With a casual toss, the man's body was flung dozens of feet away like a broken sack before crashing heavily onto the ground. At the same time, the young man's hand firmly grasped the young girl's tender face as he slowly said, "I never imagined that there would be remnants of the Fire Banyan clan in this desolate flowing fire plains. What's even more unexpected is that there would be such a young girl in the Fire Banyan clan. It wouldn't be a bad choice to capture her and make her into a slave." The young man casually lifted the young girl and sized her up without pity, as if examining an object. Xiao Yan looked at the situation below from the distant mountain peak. A stunned expression flashed across his eyes. He immediately spoke in a cold voice. "I never thought that even you would come. Bai Ruoxuan." The young man lifting the young girl was the one who had tried to snatch the heavy Xian ruler from Bai Zijing's hands. He was also Bai Zijing's younger brother, the heir of the Central Region's Bai clan, Bai Ruoxuan. But since even he is here, does that mean? Xiao Yan's heart filled with surprise at the sight of Bai Ruoxuan, and he could not help but frown inside. After all, Bai Ruoxuan was accompanied by a Genesis Venerate expert who was constantly protecting him. "Bastard, I'll kill you!" The man who had been easily tossed aside by Ruoxuan a moment ago, once again charged forward the moment Xiao Yan discovered Bai Ruoxuan. He squeezed out every trace of Genesis Qi within his body and instantly appeared behind Bai Ruoxuan. Both of his hands were clenched into fists as he used all his strength to violently smash at Bai Ruoxuan's head. However, when faced with the killing intent that was right in front of him, not only did Bai Ruoxuan not dodge, he did not even have the intention to attack. With a ridiculing expression, he looked at the young woman in his hand. When the man's fist landed, a white light flashed in the air. In an instant, a figure appeared behind Bai Ruoxuan like a phantom. With a light wave of his sleeve, he sent the man flying. The person who had arrived was Bai Ruoxuan's guardian, a Genesis Venerate expert, Bai Rong. After sending the man flying, Bai Rong quickly turned towards Bai Ruoxuan and respectfully said, "Heir, our main goal is to rescue First Young Master. However, First Young Master is currently alone in the depths of the plains. If we continue to stay here, we will be in danger." It's fine. Big Brother's methods are wondrous, and it's not his first day in the flowing fire plains. There's plenty of time, so it's fine if we're a little slower. What's more, we've captured 2 descendants of the Fire Banyan tribe. Upon hearing this, Bai Ruoxuan chuckled in a relaxed manner. He casually tossed the young girl towards a nearby Genesis zone and said, "Take care of these 2. It's best if you can bring them back alive. Since they've been able to survive in the flowing fire plains for so long, I believe that they should be very familiar with the Fire Banyan ruins." "Understood. When the time comes, they might even be able to help my clan obtain the Fire Banyan tribe's hidden treasure. When that happens, my Bai clan will be the leader of the 3 great clans." After dealing with the man and woman, the 2 origin zones nearby stepped forward and restrained one of them, preparing to tie them up. However, just as the 2 origin zones were about to make their move, the space beside them suddenly distorted in a strange manner. Soon after, it transformed into 2 pitch-black tents. A figure flashed within them, and the 2 Fire Banyan tribe members that were about to be captured were actually snatched away right in front of their faces. "Who are you?" At the same time, the old eyes of Bai Rong, who was standing beside Bai Ruoxuan, suddenly became sharp. His body flashed and quickly appeared at a certain spot in the sky. At the same time, an invisible tent suddenly appeared in the empty space on the opposite side. Soon after, Xiao Yan appeared in front of Bai Rong while carrying the man and woman from the Fire Banyan tribe. "It's you." Bai Rong immediately recognized the black-clothed figure opposite him. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and swung it at Xiao Yan's face as Genesis Qi surged from his palm. Xiao Yan, who had appeared, naturally did not dare to be careless. Moreover, his hand was carrying the unconscious man and woman from the Fire Banyan tribe. His heart felt extremely solemn. Immediately, he subconsciously maneuvered the great way of the empty space. His body leaned back while dodging Bai Rong's descending palm. With a flash, he swiftly appeared in the empty space 1,000 feet away. "Old man, it's best not to get angry so easily." Xiao Yan laughed coldly and mocked as he looked at the gloomy face of Bai Rong in the distant empty space. "Xiao Yan, so it's you." On the ground, Bai Ruoxuan also recognized the newcomer. A chilling look immediately appeared on his face as he coldly sneered. "I didn't get rid of you back then because of the Ouyang clan, but you still dare to appear in front of this young master. You really don't know what's good for you. If you're willing to fight one-on-one, I don't mind giving you the chance." Xiao Yan's gaze swiftly swept across Bai Rong and the few source zones below. Traces of Genesis Qi swiftly flowed through the meridians of the 2 Fire Banyan clan members. Soon after, a bright light swiftly flashed across his eyes as if he had discovered something. "Humph. One-on-one? Good, Elder Rong, finish him off." A voice filled with killing intent spread, and Bai Rong chuckled sinisterly. His old eyes were fixed on Xiao Yan as he grinned sinisterly. "My pleasure." Chapter 1503. Ch. Wrapped in Genesis Qi, The shriveled hand was as sharp as a blade as it easily cut through the air. Finally, it narrowly sliced through the air an inch away from Xiao Yan's face amidst an ear-piercing sonic boom. Even so, the sharp wind left behind a few bloody scars on Xiao Yan's face. Soon after, Bai Rong swung his other hand violently while Xiao Yan was withdrawing. A powerful energy pillar shot out explosively. Xiao Yan hurriedly summoned his heavenly flame to block it. At the same time, the dark black tent once again appeared behind him. The next moment, Xiao Yan's body swiftly disappeared into the tent amid a low, deep explosion. A sharp blood arrow also shot out from within and struck Bai Rong. The latter casually waved his hand, sending out an extremely cold snowflake. The blood arrow rapidly froze in midair before exploding with a loud bang. In the air 100 feet away, Xiao Yan appeared with a slightly pale face, his expression extremely grave. With Xiao Yan's current strength, other than dodging, he did not have any other way to parry the attacks of a Source Venerate. Even though he relied on the Sky Extinction Steps and other agility techniques, as well as the Void Great Path, to deal with most of Bai Rong's killing moves, it was difficult to guarantee that he would not be injured during the exchange. Kid, you're pretty fast. You can be considered first-rate among those of the same cultivation level. Bai Rong frowned as he looked at Xiao Yan in the distance, the expression on his old face not looking too good. As a Genesis Venerate, his attacks had been dodged by a Genesis Ancestor Junior time and time again. If news of this spread, he could not guarantee that he would not lose face. You're too polite. Elder isn't too bad either. There aren't many people who can shamelessly attack a junior. Xiao Yan quickly swallowed a few pills as he sneered. What a sharp tongue. When I capture you, I'll definitely pull out your teeth one by one. Let's see if you can still be so stubborn. Bai Rong's old face twitched slightly. Immediately, he let out a cold snort. His body flashed and transformed into a thunderbolt that once again charged furiously at Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan did not dare to be careless in his heart when he saw this. At the same time that he was preparing to withdraw, he quietly flipped his hand under his sleeve. A golden-colored formation plate landed in his hand. He had nearly used it in the Fire Banyan Forest. Now that he had encountered Bai Rong, Xiao Yan had no choice but to test its power. Following this, Bai Rong appeared to have completely lost his patience after Xiao Yan dodged a couple of times. His forward-charging body suddenly paused as he stood in the empty air. His gaze focused on Xiao Yan as a low, deep, and somewhat hoarse voice was slowly spat out. Kid, let's end the game here. This old man's patience is running out. The shriveled hand was violently clenched in the empty space in front of him. Immediately, the area around Xiao Yan, who was hundreds of feet away, was suddenly filled with ice crystals. The sudden drop in temperature caused the movement of Xiao Yan's body to immediately slow. Poof! With his body being sealed, Xiao Yan appeared to be unwilling to waste any more time. A thought passed through his mind and his spiritual strength covered his entire body. At the same time, he waved his hands and a surging flame rose between his palms. After which, he did not hesitate to heavily knead them together. As the flame shot out, a frightening energy swiftly gathered between Xiao Yan's palms. Even someone as experienced as Bai Rong could not help but raise his brows when he felt the frightening power in Xiao Yan's hands. Kid, to think that a 4-star origin sect like you can use such a powerful Do skill. You do have some ability, but that's all there is to it. Bai Rong's body flashed a couple of times and appeared in front of Xiao Yan in a ghost-like manner after his somewhat shocked voice sounded. He rotated his hand and surging Genesis Chi immediately gushed out. It swiftly agglomerated into an almost substance-like handprint under his palm that violently smashed toward Xiao Yan's chest. Noisy! Xiao Yan's face was cold and stern as he watched the palm seal in front of him swiftly magnify in his eyes. The angry Buddha lotus flame that he had agglomerated with all his strength swiftly formed at this moment. Finally, it collided with the palm seal. Boom! A thunder-like roar suddenly exploded. The cold air that had gathered in the sky scattered in the blink of an eye amidst a dazzling light. Bai Rong's body remained unmoved within the light. The fighting strength that Xiao Yan had unleashed was indeed shocking. However, regardless of how one put it, he was ultimately just a Genesis sect. What you've brought, you have indeed surprised this old man a lot, but if this is your trump card, then this old man advises you to surrender and not waste any more time. The white light gradually disappeared, revealing Bai Rong, who was standing majestically within it. Both of his hands were placed behind him. Regardless of how the energy wave swept over, they were unable to harm him even a little. Xiao Yan appeared quite miserable a couple of dozen feet in front of him. However, the smile that he carried on his face appeared a little strange. Since Senior is in the mood, this Junior will naturally accompany you. A cold chuckle rang out as the pitch-black tent condensed behind Xiao Yan once again. Bai Rong's figure flashed forward, his withered hand reaching for Xiao Yan's chest. However, the former had already disappeared into the darkness. A split second later, a glowing golden formation disk appeared where Xiao Yan had disappeared. It had been activated by spirit power and was rapidly spreading rays of golden light. By the time Bai Rong reacted, a towering formation had already taken shape around him. What? This sudden turn of events caused the expression on Bai Rong's face to change drastically. His gaze rapidly scanned his surroundings, only to find that there was no way out. After several attempts, the great formation remained completely still under the bombardment of Genesis Chi. Instead, golden light flowed around the great formation as the sound of gears turning slowly rang out. Several killing formations were slowly taking shape. This is the Shao clan's 8-directional purgatory. Bai Rong finally recognized this frightening killing formation in front of him, which possessed a fierce reputation within the middle region, the moment he saw those killing formations. A terrified expression immediately surfaced on his old face. His eyes turned and landed on Xiao Yan, who had appeared outside of the formation at this moment. You are from the Shao clan. The 8-directional purgatory formation was created by the Shao clan's experts. It combined a trapping formation and 8 killing formations that complemented each other. Once inside, even a high-level source venerate would have to pay a heavy price to break out. The Shao clan had previously used this formation to kill many experts who had violated their boundary. Now that the formation had landed on Bai Rong's body, even someone as strong as Bai Rong might not be able to survive. Boom boom boom. Golden light spilled out from the killing formation as terrifying energy bombarded Bai Rong. Bai Rong was also forced to defend himself under the bombardment. From the looks of it, the killing formation wouldn't be able to take down Bai Rong in a short period of time. However, if the battle dragged on, there might be a chance to kill him. That means he won't be able to come out anytime soon. Without Bai Rong blocking him in front, Xiao Yan could be considered to have sighed in relief at this moment. The corner of his mouth was lifted into an ice-cold smile. His gaze slowly landed on the ugly expression of Bai Ruoxuan below. Chapter 1504. When Xiao Yan's gaze landed on Bai Ruoxuan's body, the latter's extremely dark gaze also locked onto the former's body. I never imagined that even Elder Rong would not be able to finish you off immediately. You wretched bastard. Bai Ruoxuan's heart was on the verge of spitting fire as the Genesis Chi in his body frantically surged. The words he spat out seemed to have been forcefully squeezed out from between his teeth. Xiao Yan landed beside the man and woman from the Fire Banyan tribe on the ground. He randomly handed a medicinal pill to the both of them. After which, his gaze once again landed on Bai Ruoxuan. His face revealed a cold smile as he curled his hand in a provocative manner and coldly laughed. My bones are worthless. If you want my life, why don't you take it yourself? Upon seeing Xiao Yan's disdainful attitude, the anger in Bai Ruoxuan's eyes grew even stronger. Just as he was about to explode, Bai Rong, who was currently in the middle of the killing array, suddenly shouted in a hoarse voice. Prince, hurry and leave this place. This child is definitely not someone ordinary. If you don't leave now, I'm afraid that you will be in danger. As the shout rang out, the other 4 origin ancestors standing around Bai Ruoxuan swiftly stepped forward to protect him. Words of advice continuously rang out in his ears, causing Bai Ruoxuan's expression to grow increasingly ugly. Elder Rong, do you really believe that I am inferior to a lowly brat? I have 5 Genesis sect elders here. Even if we drag things out, we will be able to drag him to death. A long while later, Bai Ruoxuan's low and furious roar suddenly rang out. A pair of scarlet eyes stared fixedly at Xiao Yan as he abruptly roared with murderous intent. Attack! Today, I will definitely grind his bones to dust and take back the heavenly dark buster sword and heavenly flame in his hands with interest. Bai Ruoxuan completely ignored the 4 people beside him as his furious voice rang out. His figure directly charged at Xiao Yan. Although the others wanted to stop him, the heir was still a powerhouse from the Source sect. After hesitating for a few breaths, they followed closely behind him and charged at Xiao Yan. Bai Rong, who was within the large formation in the sky, had no choice but to use all his strength to block the attack of the large formation despite the fury in his heart. His heart only hoped that these few people would be able to successfully kill Xiao Yan. Phew! On the ground, Xiao Yan slowly exhaled a mouthful of turbid air that smelled of blood as he stared intently at the 5 people rushing towards him. 2 Bai Ruoxuan, 1 4-star Genesis Sect Elder, 2 6-star Genesis Sect Elders, and 2 8-star Genesis Sect Elders. This lineup could be said to be invincible below the Origin Venerate level. It would not be easy to deal with the attacks of these 5 people at the same time. Xiao Yan swallowed a few pills without hesitation. As he felt the gentle medicinal power rapidly spread throughout his body, his face seemed to become a little rosier. His thoughts quickly revolved as the heavenly flame on the surface of his body ignited. He then heavily stomped his foot on the ground and violently attacked Bai Ruoxuan, who was bearing the brunt of the attack. Bang! The two had only clashed once before Bai Ruoxuan was forcefully pushed back. Even though he had already experienced a battle, the power that Xiao Yan had unleashed still caused Bai Ruoxuan's expression to fluctuate. However, Xiao Yan did not show the slightest intention of stopping. While his footsteps moved, he continued to use the sky extinction steps. His body swiftly approached Bai Ruoxuan in a ghost-like manner. His fist danced and the heavenly flame flew as it violently smashed toward Bai Ruoxuan's face. Little brat, how dare you! At the same time that Bai Ruoxuan acted to block the attack, a 6-star Sorsong, who had hurried over from the side, hurriedly attacked. A sharp attack violently smashed toward Xiao Yan's neck. The latter coldly snorted. Light flashed from the storage ring on his finger just as the other party's hand was about to attack. A purplish-black figure immediately shot out. Vast and mighty thunder rumbled as lightning descended. A metal fist instantly smashed into the 6-star Genesis Sect Elder's chest. The terrifying force forcefully broke the pillar as the devastating lightning energy swept through the body. After which, a muffled bang sounded as the 6-star Genesis Sect Elder lost his life. At the same time, Xiao Yan and Bai Ruoxuan once again separated from each other. Both of them retreated 1,000 feet. Flowing light flickered beside Xiao Yan as an 8-star Genesis Sect Elder rushed forward, but was quickly knocked away by the Northern King. As for the other 6-star Genesis Sect Elder, he flew to the side of the deceased. His expression wildly changed as he felt a wave of terror in his heart at Xiao Yan's methods. Humph! Attack! As long as one of you can delay that puppet, the 3 of us will be able to kill him. Bai Ruoxuan coldly glanced at the 6-star Genesis Sect Elder, who had instantly turned into a corpse. The muscles at the corners of his eyes twitched, but the towering fury in his heart did not diminish. He ordered the other 8-star Genesis Sect Elder to charge forward, while he joined forces with the remaining 6-star Genesis Sect Elder and prepared to seize the opportunity to attack. Ha! A long roar was emitted from Xiao Yan's throat when he saw the 3 people charging forward. His body shook and 2 clusters of heavenly flames of different colors suddenly surfaced in his hands. A ferocious smile surged from the corner of his mouth. Soon after, both of his hands were violently clenched. The heavenly flame was unleashed and the aura of his body suddenly soared at this moment. Heavenly Fire 3 Mysterious Change. With a furious roar in his heart, another ball of fire was spat out from his mouth. The explosion instantly engulfed his entire body, and golden light began to glow on his body. As he swung his fist, his body rapidly grew, transforming into a giant Vajra god covered in flames in the blink of an eye, and he ferociously clashed with the 8-star Genesis Sect Elder. The 8-star Genesis Sect Elder's expression involuntarily changed slightly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yan's cultivation had risen to the level of a 6-star Genesis Sect Elder. Moreover, the eruption of battle power was much stronger than before. Even with the 8-star Genesis Sect Elder's cultivation, he still found it quite strenuous to exchange blows with Xiao Yan. This child cannot be allowed to live. Mid-intent rank Do technique, fiendish blood seal. The old man crossed his palms, and 2 bloody scars immediately appeared on his palms. As fresh blood gushed out, Genesis Chi poured into the scars, causing an extremely powerful aura to erupt. On the other side, Xiao Yan raised his hands to his chest as a series of seals rapidly flew out. From the looks of it, it was the Emperor Seal art. However, when he used it now, it was very different from when he fought Xiao Feng back then. There were a few more complicated seals. At the same time, the power contained within it had also risen to a whole new level. Universe Seal. This seal was unleashed. It was the 7th seal of the 8 God Seal seals, the first seal below the Shang class. With Xiao Yan's current strength, it was likely that even an ordinary 9-star source sect would have to treat it seriously if he used his full strength. Bang! The two forces collided. In a short few breaths, the astonishing power shattered the fiendish blood seal, and even the 8-star Genesis sect elder was blasted back by 100 feet. Die! While the 8-star Genesis sect elder was being blasted back, the other 6-star Genesis sect elder in front of Xiao Yan suddenly charged forward. The giant blade in his hand was raised high into the air as he swung it down at Xiao Yan's head. If the latter attacked at this moment, even with Xiao Yan's current state, it would be difficult to guarantee that he would not be seriously injured. Don't you dare harm my master. Suddenly, a dry voice resounded like the voice of the underworld. The Northern King's body once again appeared in front of Xiao Yan. A heavy whip kick poured all of its strength into the body of the 6-star Sorsong without holding back. With this strike, the 6-star Sorsong was sent flying. If nothing unexpected happened, it was likely that the 6-star Sorsong would end up seriously injured and on the verge of death. Soon after, Bai Ruoxuan, who had followed closely behind, was also captured by the Northern King with a single hand. On the other side, the 8-star Source Sect member who had been fighting with the Northern King was also crawling up from the ground with great difficulty. When he lifted his head, the remaining 3 simultaneously saw Bai Ruoxuan, who had been captured by the Northern King. Ugh! How can this be? Rong! Elder Rong, save me! Only at this moment did Bai Ruoxuan's horrified and inconsolable screams rang out from his mouth. High up in the sky, Bai Rong, who was currently dripping with blood in the killing formation, finally saw the scene on the ground once again. Immediately, his hoarse screams resounded through the world. Xiao Yan, if you dare to hurt him, my Bai clan will not rest until you are dead. Xiao Yan sneered when he heard this. The eyes under his golden body slowly lifted as he looked at Bai Rong in the sky and coldly said, "Even if I let him go now, there will be no room for reconciliation between us. Therefore, you should keep these words to yourself." As soon as he finished speaking, Xiao Yan's large hand slowly grabbed Bai Ruoxuan's head and gently exerted force. With a cracking sound, Bai Ruoxuan's body immediately convulsed violently. After convulsing, Bai Ruoxuan completely lost all signs of life. The ill-fated fate of time. Chapter 1505. Ah! Ah! An earth-shaking roar rang out from Bai Rong's mouth the instant Bai Ruoxuan died. The old man's turbid eyes instantly turned scarlet red. At this moment, he no longer cared about the terrifying power that was continuously bombarding his body. Instead, he frantically circulated the Genesis Chi in his body, gathering it into the vortex as he did his best to compress it. Bai Shang Bai Mie, stop this person. Even if I die today, I will kill you with my own hands. Ah! An extremely furious hoarse voice slowly echoed across the area. On the ground below, the 2 8-star Origin sect experts nodded heavily upon hearing Bai Rong's order. Do Qi crazily surged out from their bodies as their figures rapidly flashed, appearing beside Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. The two surrounded the Northern King and Xiao Yan, who was using the giant elephant art. Clang! Ah! Next, a surging power suddenly unfurled from Bai Rong's body within the 8-directional purgatory formation in the sky. An astonishing explosion occurred, causing even the seal of the top-tier formation to involuntarily tremble. From the looks of it, Bai Rong would break out of the formation if this happened a few more times. Upon seeing this, the originally frowning expression of Xiao Yan instantly turned somewhat grave. With the help of a secret technique, the giant elephant art, and a high-class Do skill, he did indeed have the ability to push back an 8-star Origin sect expert. However, he could only use such a method once. Given his opponent's cultivation, it would be difficult for even Xiao Yan to match them once they truly attacked. What's more, Bai Rong was about to break out of the formation's seal. If this dragged on, Xiao Yan would not be able to escape even if he wanted to. Phew! Xiao Yan's eyelids lowered slightly as thoughts rapidly spun in his head. Soon after, he looked past the person in front of him towards the 2 Fire Banyan tribe members, who had already recovered some of their strength. If he could borrow their strength, he might have a chance to escape from their hands. The giant elephant skill slowly disappeared as a thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind. He quickly and heavily waved his hand. The heavy Shen ruler immediately landed in his hand as the Genesis Chi in his body was swiftly circulated. The old man on the other side also took out his weapon upon seeing this. A biting cold aura spread as Genesis Chi was poured in. 7-layer heaven-breaking ruler. Xiao Yan was the first to make a move. As he roared in his heart, he waved the giant ruler in his hand. In the blink of an eye, several rays of light shot out, and the old man in front of him also brandished his weapon to meet them head-on. An instant later, the North King, who was behind Xiao Yan, suddenly turned around. At almost the same time, the other 8-star Origin Sect Master swiftly attacked. His palm turned into a blade, and he viciously stabbed it at Xiao Yan's back. However, the latter had already expected this. The tent behind him swiftly formed, while the Northern King turned around and chased after the ruler light at full speed. He used the flame ruler light to block it and fiercely collided with the 8-star Source Sect Master. As for the other 8-star Source Sect Master, he narrowly missed Xiao Yan's disappearing figure. He hurriedly looked forward, only to see the old man's chest being heavily injured by the Northern King's punch. Fortunately, given the old man's strength, the punch was not enough to kill him. However, his rapidly paling face and the lightning power that continuously surged around his body showed how serious his injuries were. Bai Shang! Damn it, we were tricked by that brat. I'll hold this bastard back. Bai Mie, quickly finish off that brat. No matter what, we can't let him escape. Bai Shang turned his head and cried out sternly to Bai Mie. The latter hesitated for a moment before nodding his head heavily. His gaze swiftly swept in all directions. Soon after, he saw Xiao Yan, who had appeared beside the person from the Fire Banyan tribe. Immediately, he maneuvered his great Dao strength without any hesitation. A couple of thick rock walls swiftly agglomerated around his body. They appeared like numerous shields as they surrounded his two sides. The solemn feeling in his heart also quietly relaxed. Although Xiao Yan's cultivation could not be compared with them, the shocking fighting strength that he had displayed since the beginning caused even an experienced expert like him to no longer dare to treat Xiao Yan with an ordinary heart. If he was the slightest bit careless, it was likely that he would follow in the footsteps of the other two. At the same time, Xiao Yan temporarily placed his attention on the two Fire Banyan tribe members beside him. He did not dare to stay any longer and hurriedly asked, "If the two of you want to leave this place alive, can you agree to my next request?" At this moment, the two of them had consumed the medicinal pills Xiao Yan had given them and were much more clear-headed. However, when they heard these words, the two of them were immediately startled. There was some surprise on their faces. Even the dignified Origin Sect expert in front of them could not deal with an enemy, so what could the two of them do? However, before the two of them could ask any questions, they were stunned to see that Xiao Yan in front of them had opened his mouth and spat out 5 balls of powerful flames. This is... The two of them were suddenly shocked. As they muttered in a low voice, Bai Mie, who was in the distance, also stared at them with an extremely gloomy expression. This brat, what is he trying to do? Seeing the 5 balls of heavenly flames slowly floating in front of Xiao Yan, Bai Mie's old face could not help but twitch violently. Previously, he had personally witnessed the power of the heavenly flames in Xiao Yan's hand. Now that Xiao Yan had summoned them again, a strong sense of uneasiness rapidly grew in his heart. We must not let him continue. At this very moment, this was the only thought that lingered in Bai Mie's heart. Lend me the heavenly flames in your bodies. After separating 5 heavenly flames in a row, Xiao Yan's face, which had just recovered a little, turned deathly pale once again. More than half of the Genesis Chi in his body had been consumed, and if not for the medicinal pills, even this step would have been extremely difficult. Even so, the 4 heavenly flames in his hand and a ball of mixed seed fire might not be enough to stop his opponent. Plop! Suddenly, another domineering ball of flame rose in front of Xiao Yan. Its scarlet-red exterior and the terrifying magma-like scarlet-red core made Xiao Yan recognize it with a single glance. It was the volcanic rock flame, ranked 17th on the heavenly flame list. As expected, although it's also a seed fire, it's much more powerful. It must have been directly separated from the origin fire, which means... A thought flashed across Xiao Yan's heart. Soon after, he sensed Bai Mie shooting over from the opposite side in a lightning-like manner. He let out a cold snort and decisively controlled the 6 clusters of flames in front of him to fly back. At the same time, he slammed his palms together and unceremoniously merged the volcanic rock flame with the 5 clusters of heavenly flames. Kid, stop. Screech. A piercing sound suddenly rang out as Bai Mie controlled the rock walls around him to smash at Xiao Yan. The latter dodged several times and quickly pulled away from him. Bai Mie watched as the struggling flames in Xiao Yan's palms gradually stabilized. The horror in his heart grew even stronger, and he did his best to raise his speed to the limit. Under the control of Bai Mie's mind, a couple of rock walls were swiftly formed. After a couple of shuttles, they blocked Xiao Yan's back and blocked his path of retreat. At the same time, rocks continued to form under Bai Mie's feet. Each step he took caused his forward charging speed to increase. After over a dozen breaths, the distance between him and Xiao Yan was only a couple of feet. Stop! Stop! Bai Mie stared at Xiao Yan, who was just a foot away. A cold smile finally appeared on his face. With a wave of his hand, the rock in his palm quickly formed a heavy rock wall the size of a door. With a sweeping motion, it smashed heavily at Xiao Yan's palms. If this attack hit, once the flame dissipated, Xiao Yan would definitely be seriously injured. However, when the stone wall was still over 10 centimeters away from Xiao Yan's hands, Xiao Yan slowly raised his eyes. His dense, cold gaze looked directly at Bai Mie's eyes. As his palms opened and closed, a fire lotus that contained a scarlet color gently floated forward in front of Bai Mie's shocked eyes. Years of Ill-Fated Fate. Chapter 1506. The world seemed to fall silent the moment the fire lotus flew out. Even the yellow wind seemed to freeze for a moment. Then, a dazzling white light shot out from the fire lotus. The lotus petals scattered, and with the flames mixed in, a seemingly solid energy spread out from white annihilation. Wherever it passed, space collapsed and the ground was incinerated by the flames. Boiling lava sprayed into the sky, and after a few breaths, a deafening explosion rang out. In the distance, the two people from the Fire Banyan tribe blocked behind the Northern King, who had swiftly appeared. Bai Shang, on the other hand, used the pushing force of the energy to swiftly withdraw from the battleground after doing his best to block a wave of energy attack. Xiao Yan, who was in the middle, was heavily smashed against the rock wall behind him. The moment the rock crumbled, a mouthful of fresh blood was involuntarily spat out from his mouth. His body was sent flying 1,000 feet before smashing heavily onto the ground. The white light lasted for a long time. When the light dissipated, the surging lava had already filled everyone's eyes. As for white annihilation, the shattered rock in front of him was barely able to stand up, and the ground beneath his feet had not collapsed. It seemed that he had still managed to block Xiao Yan's all-out attack. An 8-star source sect master was so powerful. Even so, after being bombarded by the Buddha's fiery lotus at close range, white annihilation was like a lamp that had run out of oil. There was only a wisp of blood left in his nose, which proved how terrifying Xiao Yan's attack was. With the strength of a 4-star Sorsong, Xiao Yan had forcefully killed an 8-star Sorsong. Moreover, this had happened after a couple of big battles. Once news of this battle result spread, Xiao Yan's name would likely resound throughout the middle region within a short period of time. White annihilation, even you. At this moment, Bai Xing finally felt a deep sense of fear towards the black-robed young man. His body trembled as he slowly turned his head. His scarlet eyes stared at the black-robed man who was struggling to get up on the ground in the distance. Even though he knew that the black-robed man was an arrow at the end of its flight, Bai Shang's incomparable fear still made him not dare to step forward. No, no, no. He's too strong. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, the 8-directional purgatory array that had sealed Bai Rong in the sky finally charged out after a series of frenzied attacks. His skin and flesh had split open, and his old face was as white as paper. If one were to take a closer look, one would find that he had become much skinnier and older, as though he was a skeleton wearing human skin. His aura had also rapidly declined, and it seemed that he had barely reached the level of an origin venerate. In order to break out of the purgatory's imprisonment, this fellow had actually used his own cultivation as the price, risking damaging his foundation to forcefully break out of the formation. Roar! A beast-like roar was immediately emitted from Bai Rong's throat as he charged out of the formation. His scarlet-red eyes swiftly locked onto Xiao Yan as his shriveled arms continuously waved about, forcefully enduring the intense pain of his meridian channels breaking as he forcefully circulated his Genesis Qi. With a jerk of his body, he arrived in front of Xiao Yan. After swaying for a while, he landed heavily on the ground. However, his gaze never left Xiao Yan's body. TSK. The space fluctuated violently as the North King charged forward. However, Just as he was about to hit Bai Rong, the latter easily dodged his attack. At the same time, his withered palm landed heavily on the North King's body. The North King's steel-like bones shattered, and his body was smashed into the ground. At this moment, Xiao Yan was already at his wits' end. His mind was wildly spinning while Bai Rong raised his firewood-like hand. Genesis Chi agglomerated on his sharp fingertip, turning into a substance. After which, he aimed at Xiao Yan's head and suddenly pierced downwards. "Dang!" These words were forced out from his throat. Bai Rong's entire body trembled uncontrollably due to his rage. However, in the next instant, just as the sharp finger was about to land between Xiao Yan's eyebrows, the ground under Xiao Yan's feet suddenly burst apart. The boiling hot magma swiftly dragged Xiao Yan's body downward like a living creature. At the same time, the Northern King and the two people from the Fire Banyan tribe were swiftly swallowed by the magma due to this unexpected change. Their auras disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Roar! Who is it? Come out!" His only chance to kill Xiao Yan vanished in an instant. Bai Rong almost went crazy. His shriveled body trembled violently as blood sprayed from his mouth. A furious roar resounded across the land once again, but this time, no matter how crazy he was, he could no longer find the person who had disappeared. A few days later, this was a barren world. Everywhere one looked, there were broken walls and ruins. Looking up, one couldn't see the sky. Looking down, one could only find a patch of crimson. Crimson was the main melody of this world, and also the only melody of color. With the aid of pills, Xiao Yan sat cross-legged for several days. The exhausted Genesis Chi and injuries in his body had finally recovered. He opened his eyes and scanned his surroundings. The man and woman not far away slowly walked over. "Thank you, Elder, for saving our lives." The two of them stepped forward and respectfully bowed to Xiao Yan. If Xiao Yan had not intervened to rescue them during this trip, it was likely that they would have already fallen into the trap of others. Xiao Yan smiled awkwardly in his heart in the face of this. Honestly speaking, if it were not for the volcano rock flame within the bodies of these two people, Xiao Yan would not be so idle as to provoke an expert at the Yuan Zun class. Fortunately, he had ended up meeting an expert and luckily escaped this calamity. Otherwise, he would have really died in Bai Rong's hands. Xiao Yan involuntarily felt a chill on his back when he recalled the frightening tactics of Bai Rong back then. It appeared that he could not act on impulse in the future and randomly lend a hand to save someone. If he were to meet with such a situation again, there might not be anyone who would lend a hand to help him. Chi! While Xiao Yan was quietly thinking, the ground beside the three of them suddenly cracked apart. Soon after, hot magma spluttered out. Xiao Yan's eyes also changed drastically. His eyes stared intently at the deepest part of the magma. He could sense an extremely hot and familiar aura at that spot. The lava surged, twisting and converging in front of the three, transforming into a human figure. At a glance, it was a red-faced old man holding a wooden staff. When he appeared, the man and woman revealed looks of joy. Just as they were about to step forward, the old man sternly reprimanded them. "Huaxing, how dare you? Your cultivation has only just broken through to the Origin Emperor stage, yet you dare to bring Xiaoxin out. If not for your good luck, you would have lost your life." The old man glared at the man. With just one word, the latter could only obediently admit his mistake. Even the young girl beside him lowered her head timidly. Among the two, the man was called Huaxing, and the girl was called Hua Xian. They were a pair of brother and sister. At the same time, they were the only surviving descendants of the Fire Banyan tribe. Before this, the two of them had stayed in this space for many years. Not long ago, Huaxing had broken through to the Origin Emperor stage, so he secretly brought his sister out and caused a disaster. After reprimanding them, the old man's expression returned to normal. His gaze then landed on Xiao Yan. His clear gaze seemed to have the power to see through everything. With just a glance, Xiao Yan felt as if everything about him had been seen through by the old man. The Ill-Fated Fate of Time. Chapter 1507. When the old man's gaze fell on Xiao Yan, the latter was also staring at the person in front of him. The burning heavenly flame in his body had an impulse to break out of his body. That kind of special movement made Xiao Yan immediately confirm that the red-faced old man in front of him was the original form of the heavenly flame in Huaxing and Hua Xian's body, the volcanic rock flame. "Little friend, it's all thanks to you that the two of them are able to survive this time. Withdrawing his gaze from Xiao Yan, the old man immediately smiled at Xiao Yan with a gentle face. The latter naturally did not dare to be careless. He smiled modestly and hurriedly said respectfully, "Senior is too polite. With your means, even without Junior's help, the two of them will naturally be fine. Hee, little friend is really low-key." The old man smiled and turned around to open the way. He waved his hand and Xiao Yan quickly followed. "Since you are here, you should recognize the original form of this old man." Hearing this, Xiao Yan nodded slightly. The old man continued, "Let's not talk about this in a roundabout way. If that's the case, the two of us won't beat around the bush. I'm Hua Qing, the guardian of these two little fellows. You've seen the wreckage. It's lifeless. Hua Xing and Xiaoxin are the last flames of the Fire Banyan tribe." Xiao Yan's gaze swept around. This place was indeed as he had guessed in his heart. It was the interior of the Fire Banyan ruins. Under the lead of Hua Qing, the group of four quickly arrived at the depths of the ruins. "This is Limestone Valley?" Xiao Yan involuntarily let out an exclamation as he eyed the somewhat strange enormous valley in front of him. His mind immediately associated it with the so-called Limestone Valley map from the auction. Seeing this, Hua Qing by the side opened his mouth slightly and immediately sighed. At this moment, the place that appeared in front of Xiao Yan was shockingly a valley with a steep terrain. A dense darkness shrouded its depths, causing one to be unable to clearly see the situation within. The air was filled with a desolate and bloody scent. At a glance, there were quite a number of damaged buildings that were still standing within the valley. The traces left behind by the flames of war on the mountain walls on both sides could clearly be seen. Broken bones were everywhere in one's sight. They had yet to step in, but that shocking murderous aura actually pounced toward the four of them like a ghost. Wang. Then, with an inexplicable trembling sound, a gust of cold wind dissipated. Hua Qing lightly tapped his cane, and a circle of light shot forward from under his feet. In the depths of the dark valley, a bright path gradually appeared. "Let's go," Hua Qing said in a calm tone. Only then did Xiao Yan notice that the cane in the old man's hand was actually a complete Fire Banyan branch. Shocked, Xiao Yan did not hesitate and quickly followed. At the same time, Hua Qing slowly opened his mouth and said, "Back then, the Fire Banyan clan opened up this space under the magma of the earth. Since then, this old man has been a guest of the Fire Banyan clan and has been living here. Unexpectedly, in the Great War that followed, it actually became like this. My clan was exterminated, the Fire Banyan branch was wantonly plundered, and the remains after the war were also treated as hot treasures by the people of the outside world." Hearing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. Not only were the people in the flowing fire plains here, even he was here for the Fire Banyan ruins. The old man appeared to have guessed what Xiao Yan was thinking in his heart. He laughed softly and he chuckled and said, "It doesn't matter. Right now, this place is just a wasteland. What treasures can there be?" As he spoke, Hua Qing suddenly paused, and even his footsteps paused for a moment. His gaze paused for a moment on the mountain where Hua Rong and his sister were. Then he lifted his foot and said slowly, "It's just that this limestone valley. I didn't expect it to happen at this time." Hua Qing sighed somewhat helplessly. Xiao Yan had learned from his mouth that the Hua Rong siblings had been living under Hua Qing's protection in the limestone valley within the Hua Banyan remains for many years. With the black fog blocking them, even an ordinary Yuan Zun would not dare to enter. They were still considered safe. However, many years ago, an Yuan Zun had coincidentally barged into the limestone valley. After a couple of lucky encounters, the map of this place was stolen by that person. Now that the map had been leaked, various forces had gathered in the flowing fire plains and were ready to make trouble. Limestone Valley would no longer be their refuge, but before that, Hua Rong and his sister still had a matter to settle. As the few of them walked out of the small path, a huge stone cave in the depths of the limestone valley appeared before Xiao Yan's eyes. Half of the cave was occupied by a gigantic Fire Banyan tree. Its roots were intertwined and stretched out, covering the entire cave. However, this Fire Banyan tree had long lost its vitality. Its broken branches were scattered, and there were large traces of burning on it. Even the lower part of the tree that was connected to the ground had its stem dug out by an external force. This is the Fire Banyan Spirit Tree, also known as the Fire Banyan Tree, is the foundation of the entire Fire Banyan clan. Hua Qing's old face was filled with sadness as he spoke. His pair of deep eyes also seemed to be recalling something. Beside him, Hua Xing and Hua Xian had respectful expressions. Although the divine tree was already dead, the admiration in their hearts had never been erased. Afterwards, Hua Qing, who had retracted his thoughts, suddenly returned to his previous stern attitude. He punished Hua Rong and his sister to sit cross-legged under the tree to meditate, while he and Xiao Yan walked to the edge of the cave. The two of them sat on a hanging tree root. Only then did the old man's scarlet face reveal some reluctance as he looked at the siblings sitting under the tree in the distance. Xiao Yan also faintly sensed something.
Little friend Xiao Yan, this old man has a matter that I hope I can entrust to you.
Suddenly, Hua Qing turned to Xiao Yan and cupped his fists with a solemn expression. Seeing this, Xiao Yan was startled and hurriedly jumped down to the ground. He bowed and cupped his fists, saying, "Junior can't accept Senior's courtesy. This time, I am indebted to Senior for his help. If you need anything, just say the word. Xiao Yan will do his best." Hua Qing took a deep breath, then sighed softly and said, "I understand. This old man understands."
You were able to save the two of them on the plains only because of the volcanic rock flames in their bodies. Xiao Yan opened his mouth slightly, but had no words to refute. The former did not care and continued to speak.
"No matter what your reason is, you still saved them. This kindness is something that this old man and the Fire Banyan clan owe you." After saying that, Hua Qing did not wait for Xiao Yan to speak. He immediately stretched out his cane and gently tapped the air in front of him. With a thought, a circle of invisible ripples quickly spread out.
After a few breaths, on the flowing fire plains, under the countless fire banyan trees, the fire banyan branches seemed to have been summoned.
With a tremor, they sank into the depths of the magma. In the end, a small mountain made of fire banyan branches appeared in front of Xiao Yan. The ill-fated fate of time. Chapter 1508.
Even with Xiao Yan's mental fortitude, the corners of his mouth twitched uncontrollably as he looked at the small mountain of fire banyan branches in front of him. One must know that many origin sect powerhouses would have to rack their brains just to obtain one in the outside world. However, Hua Qing had casually piled up these fire banyan branches, which were incomparably precious in the eyes of others, as if they were cabbages. If they were in the outside world, even a Source Venerate powerhouse would not be able to resist the urge to fight over them. Take this as your reward for saving them.
Hua Qing randomly pointed at the small mountain in front of him. Xiao Yan felt a wave of perspiration when he heard these words. However, in the end, he still put away the hundreds of fire banyan branches with his flushed red face under Hua Qing's somewhat playful smile. Even at this moment, Xiao Yan still held an attitude of disbelief toward this matter. Hua Qing turned his gaze and looked at the brother and sister in the distance. He raised the wooden stick in his hand and pointed it at the withered tree. Xiao Yan's gaze followed and looked over. After which, Hua Qing slowly said, "The ancestor of the Fire Banyan clan used his lifetime's cultivation and the life chi of the Fire Banyan tree at the end of the Fire Banyan tree's lifespan to leave behind a blessing for the brother and sister. He sealed it inside the tree so that when the two of them stepped into the Origin King stage, they could borrow that power to raise their cultivation to the Origin sect level in a short period of time. The ancestor was so generous. The person who could do this was at least a Origin Venerate." Xiao Yan's mind froze for a moment when he heard this. Being able to do this was enough to show the generosity of the ancestor. That person was a good friend of mine. At the time, he was already half a step into the Origin Saint stage. Unfortunately, Hua Qing's scarlet-red old face could not help but be moved when he thought of the past. The two were silent for a moment, before Hua Qing continued.
Back then, he entrusted these two juniors to me because he hoped that I would be able to escort them all the way until they fused with and absorbed the power of the inheritance.
However, circumstances have changed with the passage of time. After so many years, the remaining life energy within the Fire Banyan tree has almost been completely exhausted. For the sake of protecting the inheritance, and also for the sake of fulfilling an old friend's wish, I had no choice but to use my body as the foundation to seal it. Xiao Yan's eyes narrowed when he heard this. Using the Origin Source Flame as the seal. Didn't this mean that once the seal was undone and the heavenly flame regained its freedom, Hua Qing's consciousness would also disappear along with the seal? I believe that there is no need for me to say more. You also understand this point. Hua Qing smiled calmly as if he did not care about this at all.
His old eyes stared at the brother and sister as he said again, "Brother, at that time, without my protection, these two little fellows are destined to be unable to continue living in this place.
Therefore, I hope that if possible, you can take them away. In return, you can have the origin source flame. Elder. Before Xiao Yan could finish speaking, Hua Qing waved his hand and interrupted him. You don't need to care about anything else. No matter what you choose, that day will eventually come. At that time, there will be countless experts who will barge into the remains. If you find it difficult, I ask you to try your best to bring them away from the flowing fire plains. Xiao Yan was silent for a long time after hearing this. A long while later, he finally clenched his teeth and cupped his fists towards Hua Qing. He said in a serious tone, Elder, don't worry. As long as this junior is alive in the future, I will definitely do my best to protect the two of them. Hua Qing nodded gratefully. He then cupped his hands towards Xiao Yan and said, In that case, this old man will thank Mr. on behalf of the two of them. The Hua siblings did not know that the seal was related to Hua Qing. After all, it was the final entrustment of the Hua Banyan tribe. In order to protect the wish of his old friend, Hua Qing did not plan to let them know about this matter. Therefore, after Xiao Yan understood this, he could not help but feel a little sad in his heart. From a certain point of view, Hua Qing could be said to be Hua Xing and Hua Xian's protector. But more importantly, he was like a teacher and a father. The ancestors of the Hua Banyan tribe had spent their entire lives cultivating for the two of them. Now, Hua Qing was about to take this step. 2 days later, the injuries in Xiao Yan's body were completely healed with the help of the medicinal pills. Moreover, he realized that his stagnant cultivation actually showed some signs of growth during his training. Although the growth speed was extremely slow, it still caused Xiao Yan to feel an endless joy in his heart. Accompanied by Hua Rong and his sister, Xiao Yan's 3-man group made a turn within the remains. Soon after, a deep pit that was paved with enormous rocks appeared in front of them. The middle of the deep pit was a fire mouth that rose like a volcano. Waves of frighteningly high temperature spread in all directions with this fire mouth as the middle. At the edge of the fire mouth, Hua Qing was currently looking at the repeatedly churning magma below. His brows were filled with worry. The 3 of them walked forward. Only then did Hua Qing slowly turn around and let out a long sigh. What are you doing here instead of cultivating? Hearing this, the young girl Hua Xian's pretty face revealed a cute smile. She stepped forward and accompanied the old man. Xiao Yan walked forward by himself and looked down at the fire hole curiously. This is fire banyan branch, spirit melting berry, crimson blood jade. These are all medicinal materials that are rich in fire attribute. Many of them are things that are almost extinct in the outside world. What kind of medicinal pill is he refining all these medicinal materials together in one go? Fire Spirit Pill. While Xiao Yan was reciting the precious herbs that were extremely rare in the outside world, Hua Qing, who was behind her, gently stroked her head. At the same time, he looked at Xiao Yan with a slightly surprised expression and smiled. Hearing this, Xiao Yan frowned slightly. There was some suspicion in his eyes. The old man continued unhurriedly. This is the fire spirit pill that is unique to the fire banyan tribe. The method used is quite strange and different from what the outside world knows. It can be said that it was specially made for the fire banyan tribe. With this pill, the success rate of breaking through to the origin emperor, origin ancestor, or even the origin venerate will increase by a lot. Of course, whether it is effective for other people is unknown. A shock suddenly surged within Xiao Yan's eyes when these words were uttered. Based on what he knew, any pill that could increase one's chances of breaking through to the Yuan Zun class was a top-tier medicinal pill that was ranked at the 8th tier. However, from the situation that appeared in the fire mouth in front of him, regardless of whether it was the number of medicinal ingredients or the majority of them, it was at the very most a tier 7 medicinal pill. This fire spirit pill was really shocking. This pill is supposed to be used by Hua Xian to break through to the origin emperor realm. However, the problem now is that with my methods, it will take me at least a month to refine this pill. Also, it's hard to say when those guys outside will suddenly barge in here. Although Hua Qing was full of praise for the effect of this medicinal pill, he was helpless because he knew very little about the way of refining medicine. Even with the help of the heavenly flame, he would still need to spend quite a lot of time in order to refine this medicinal pill. However, Xiao Yan smiled and slowly turned his eyes around after Hua Qing's words sounded. Why don't you leave it to me? Chapter 1509. Fire Banyan Ruins. Xiao Yan, who was wearing a black robe, sat cross-legged in front of the fire hole. Both of his eyes were tightly shut. Boundless spiritual strength crazily surged out from between his brows,
transforming into two invisible large hands that extended towards the fire hole. The moment the spiritual strength approached, the thick magma under the fire hole seemed to have sensed it. Under the extreme churning, a wave of high temperature immediately attacked. Soon after, a wisp of purple flame suddenly ignited in the sky. Under the envelopment of the spiritual strength, the surging magma heat wave was easily dissolved. Subsequently, the flame slowly descended. In the process of entering the fire hole, it rapidly expanded into a cluster of raging flames, occupying the entire space below the fire hole. The medicinal ingredients that were originally floating above the magma were also swallowed by the raging, heavenly flame at this moment. Haha, this little fellow is not polite at all. Under the magma, this old man's volcanic rock flame has intensified the refinement. I didn't expect that he would be able to suppress even that. Sensing the situation within the fire hole, a smile surfaced on Hua Qing's old face. On the other hand, the young lady beside him had a face full of hope as she looked at Xiao Yan's back. Her lovely lips curled up as she uncertainly asked, "Grandpa Hua Qing, even you don't have much confidence. Will Senior Xiao Yan succeed?" "Hey, little girl, you still dare to tease this old man?" Hua Qing's finger gently tapped the girl's forehead. The latter immediately stuck out her tongue and shrank her neck as she smiled in embarrassment. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. This old man believes that I started off on the path of cultivation quite early, so this little fellow naturally can't compare to me. However, when it comes to the path of alchemy, looking at the entire continent, there are probably not more than a handful of people who can surpass him in the younger generation. The moment these words were spoken, the Hua Xing siblings immediately looked at each other. They could see a dense shock in each other's eyes. They naturally did not doubt Hua Qing's words. However, such a high evaluation was indeed shocking. Chi. At the same time, within the fire hole, under the burning of the heavenly flame, the outer shells of the medicinal ingredients were rapidly removed. The essence within was gradually refined, either into powder or a viscous paste. There were also some liquids that were rich in wild energy. Under the simultaneous refinement of Xiao Yan's heavenly flame, over 100 medicinal ingredients were completely refined in just a few hours. The following process was also completed in Xiao Yan's hands. With the pill formula that Hua Qing had given him, Xiao Yan already had quite a good understanding of the fire spirit pill in his heart. There were quite a number of medicinal ingredients that could be said to have taken a different path and were quite bold. However, from the looks of the pill formula, the tier of this medicinal pill was merely a rank 7 low-grade pill. With Xiao Yan's current alchemist skills, it was not difficult for him to refine it. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed since the refinement of the fire spirit pill. Hua Rong and his sister had been guarding this place for the entire day. Their eyes were fixed on the fire mouth in the middle of the huge pit, and their eyes were filled with curiosity. Although they couldn't see what was so mysterious about it with their experience, when they saw the flames flickering from time to time in the fire hole and the pill fragrance faintly permeating the surrounding air, the two of them simultaneously revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Roar! Roar! Suddenly, in the direction of the fire hole, a dragon's roar that contained a special fluctuation suddenly sounded. Hua Xing immediately looked over and saw that within the fire hole, a red round pill was slowly rising into the air. What was even more strange was that around the pill, a small dragon condensed from the pill fragrance was constantly circling. Finally, under the burning of the heavenly flame, it gradually shrank and merged into the pill. It's done! Roar! A pill turning into a dragon was the symbol of a top-tier pill. Naturally, they knew about this. However, the instant the siblings cried out in surprise, a large thundercloud swiftly gathered above the huge pit in the dome above the dome. Pill lightning! Roar! Hua Xing immediately emitted an exclamation when he saw this scene. His body hurriedly stepped forward and stood beside Xiao Yan. At the same time, Hua Qing's figure had unknowingly appeared in midair. He first glanced at the medicinal pill suspended above the fire outlet and clicked his tongue in surprise. Immediately, he descended at a steady pace and spoke to Xiao Yan with a respectful smile. Little friend Xiao Yan, you are really good. This old man admires you. Roar! Hearing this, Xiao Yan, who had just stood up, shook his head gently and sighed. Senior, you flatter me. I still have some experience in alchemy, not to mention that this is only a rank 7 low-grade pill. All right. Hua Xing and Hua Xian raised their eyebrows when these words were uttered. A medicinal pill of this tier was already a luxury to them. However,
It was merely ordinary to Xiao Yan. An alchemist was really an occupation that caused others to be envious. Haha, forget it. The most important thing now is to deal with this pill lightning. All right. The few of them continued to talk. Hua Qing simply waved his hand and slowly raised his head. He looked at the thundercloud in the sky with the others. Hua Qing gently spun the wooden staff in his hand, and his body was about to step into the air. However, he was stopped by Xiao Yan. Senior, leave this pill lightning to me. All right. Hearing this, Hua Qing was startled and hurriedly said, Little fellow, you've just finished refining the pill. Even if you're not afraid of the pill lightning in your current state, you'll definitely suffer a lot if you want to receive it. With this old man here, I don't think I'll need you to do anything. Senior. Xiao Yan smiled bitterly and shook his head. He could only secretly cuss in his heart. After which, he flicked his finger. Light flashed beside him and the purple-black Northern King rushed out. Only then did he look at Hua Qing and softly laughed. Senior, this pill lightning is somewhat useful to me. Therefore, leave it to me. Senior. After the Northern King swallowed the lightning yuan last time, its current strength had officially stepped into the intermediate 8-star origin sect. If it could absorb the pill lightning this time, who knew how much its strength would increase? Hua Qing was once again startled when he saw this strange puppet. Although he had sensed it earlier, he had merely taken a hurried glance at it back then and did not observe it in detail. Now that he had personally seen it, this dragon-scaled puppet seemed to be quite different. However, it was not appropriate for him to stop Xiao Yan when he saw the confident manner on Xiao Yan's face. He nodded and stepped to the side. Little guy, since you insist, this old man will not force you. However, there is one thing. If anything unusual happens, this old man will still take action. Don't blame me. Senior. Thank you, Senior. Senior. Xiao Yan smiled and nodded. His eyes turned sharp as he looked at the sky. He gently pointed and said in a deep voice, Northern King, go. Senior. The Northern King's body sank slightly after the order left his mouth. Soon after, it shot into the sky like a cannonball. Thunderclouds churned and lightning gathered like a horned dragon. The Northern King charged straight into the thunderclouds and began to fight with them. The ill-fated fate of time. Chapter 15:10. A moment later, the pill lightning scattered. The Northern King's tall and straight body landed beside Xiao Yan. Hua Qing's group revealed a strange expression as they looked at the puppet in front of them. If one were to take a closer look, the dragon scales on the surface of the Northern King's body seemed to have increased compared to before. Moreover, the lightning strength that continued to flow all over its body and its cold-killing aura seemed to have become much more powerful. What a strange puppet. It can actually absorb lightning energy to refine itself. No wonder you have no fear of pill lightning. All right. Hua Qing could not help but click his tongue in amazement at the sight of this strange puppet. Xiao Yan smiled faintly as his gaze landed on the Northern King's body. He could not help but frown after a careful inspection. Still mid-8-star origin ancestor? All right. After a round of inspection, Xiao Yan was shocked to discover that the Northern King's strength had not directly broken through like before. Although it was close to the late 8-star origin ancestor stage, the pill lightning's effect on the Northern King's strength had slowed down at a rate that was visible to the naked eye. Of course, it could not be denied that this was because the lightning energy had yet to be completely absorbed. However, such a result would inevitably make Xiao Yan feel disappointed. Xiao Yan helplessly curled his lips. He returned the Northern King to his thoughts. When he extended his hand, a red-colored medicinal pill swiftly flew over from the space above the fire exit. With a flick of his finger, it was absorbed into a jade bottle. After which, it was handed to Hua Qing. Hua Qing sighed in relief as he grasped the jade bottle in his hand. Soon after, he cupped his fists towards Xiao Yan with a rather solemn expression and said in a deep voice, Little fellow, many thanks. All right. At the side, Hua Rong and his sister both bowed with cupped fists, and their faces were filled with respectful expressions. Senior is too polite. I am only doing my best. All right. Xiao Yan shook his head and helped the Hua siblings to their feet. Hua Qing repeatedly expressed his thanks before handing the jade bottle to Hua Xin. The most important thing right now was for this girl to use the pill to break through to the Origin Emperor stage as soon as possible. The Hua Banyan inheritance would also be officially activated. While Xiao Yan and the others were waiting for Hua Xian to break through in the Hua Banyan ruins, strange things continued to happen outside on the flowing fire plains. First, all the fire banyan branches in the fire banyan forest mysteriously disappeared, followed closely by the fire-scaled lizard beasts diving into the depths of the magma. Outside the plains, the rivers of magma gradually dried up, revealing deep crevices. In the depths of the plains, a huge volcano suddenly emerged from the ground, boiling magma flowing in all directions. However, the experts in that area did not retreat, but instead advanced, guarding the periphery of the volcano for a long time. Of the Hua Banyan ruins, Xiao Yan, Hua Qing and the others stood in front of the Hua Banyan tree. Hua Qing summoned the staff in his hand and raised his hands to his chest. After a series of lightning-quick hand seals, 2 balls of pure energy wrapped in scarlet flames slowly appeared on the treetops of the Hua Banyan tree. When the staff was inserted into the ground, the seal covering the inheritance was gradually torn apart. Hua Xing and Hua Xian unhesitatingly leapt onto the treetops under Hua Qing's command. Their bodies gradually merged into the tree and the 2 of them fell into a deep sleep. Hua Qing's old eyes could not help but surge with reluctance as he watched the siblings fall into a deep sleep. They had been companions for so many years. Now that they were separated, it would be difficult for anyone to calm down. However, Hua Qing was also aware of the current situation. While his consciousness was still intact, he turned around without hesitation and used all his strength to erect a barrier at the entrance of the cave. This could be considered his final protection. Xiao Yan stood quietly a short distance away.
Everything here should be quietly handed over to this old man who had lived in this place for an unknown number of years. At the end of his life, other than those old friends from the past, what surfaced in his mind was this pair of children whom he had protected like his own son for many years. Little friend Xiao Yan, I'll have to entrust them to you.
Hua Qing's body trembled slightly.
Specks of light repeatedly scattered from his body.
His consciousness had already begun to scatter. As his neck twitched, he appeared just like a deaf old man as he cried out loudly.
It was as though he was afraid that Xiao Yan would not be able to hear him clearly.
Only when he confirmed that Xiao Yan nodded heavily did he smile brightly. The glow in his pair of crimson eyes gradually disappeared. His entire body finally turned into starlight and disappeared from this realm. At this moment, even with Xiao Yan's emotions, he could not help but feel a little choked up in his throat until the ground in front of him began to melt. Xiao Yan gradually melted and a bright red flame rose. It carried magma as it spread in all directions. Only then did Xiao Yan focus his attention and gather his strength. The sadness in his eyes gradually disappeared and turned into determination. At this moment, he could only comply with his agreement with the old man and do his best to become stronger. Only then would he have the opportunity to continue protecting this pair of brother and sister. Come. Volcanic rock flame. After muttering to himself for a moment, this time, Xiao Yan decisively summoned 4 heavenly flames and placed them in 4 different directions. He used the might of the heavenly flames to stop the volcanic rock flame from continuing to spread. After a loud shout, he directly charged into the raging magma-like flames. The devouring of the heavenly flames began. More than 4 months later, in the deepest part of the flowing fire plains, the volcano that had suddenly emerged from the ground a few months ago had now risen to a height of several thousand feet. The churning magma within had gradually fallen to a moderate position. If one looked carefully, there seemed to be something flowing rapidly within the magma. The periphery of the volcano had already been occupied by figures that filled the sky. The strong people from various places had gathered here for no other reason than that the crater of the volcano was the true entrance to the fire banyan relic. In another 10 days, the magma within would completely dry up and the entrance below would be exposed. At that time, all the strong people present would be able to hold the fire banyan token and successfully enter the fire banyan relic. At this moment, on a tall mountain peak outside the crater of the volcano, Bai Zijing, who was dressed in white, was standing with a few members of the Bai clan behind him. Bai Rong, whose body was as dry as firewood, was also among them. Looking at the boiling magma flowing out from the cracks at the edge of the crater of the volcano, a black-robed figure involuntarily appeared in Bai Zijing's mind. The fists under his sleeves gradually clenched together. Xiao Yan, once I return to the clan this time around, I will definitely personally drag you out of the Xiao clan. If I do not tear you into 10,000 pieces, how will I, Bai Zijing, have the face to meet my dead younger brother? At the same time, at the periphery of the flowing fire plains,
a green-robed figure swiftly rushed over from the horizon. Standing on the cliff, he looked at the vast plains that stretched as far as the eye could see.
A hint of hope surfaced in his eyes.
After a while, after confirming the general direction, the tip of his foot gently touched the ground. His body immediately transformed into a bolt of lightning and rushed towards the depths of the plains.
The ill-fated fate of time. Chapter 15:11.
Chi Chi Chi. In the depths of the flowing fire plains, countless experts stood in the air in front of the entrance to the Fire Banyan ruins. Their gazes were fixed on the terrifyingly hot magma below. As time slowly passed, the magma at the bottom of the volcano gradually sank. At this rate, it would take less than half a day at most for the magma inside the volcano to completely dry up.
At that time, it would be the best time for the experts present to enter the ruins. Everyone was waiting for that moment to arrive.
However, after more than half the time had passed, the slowly sinking magma at the bottom of the volcano gradually came to a stop.
It was as though it had reached its lowest point.
Based on the height of the volcano, the magma was at least 1,000 feet away from the bottom of the volcano where it had dried up.
This scene caused quite a number of experts present to feel astonished. According to past experience, the magma would dry up and disappear in less than half a day, and below it, there would be a spatial entrance to the ruins. Any expert with a Fire Banyan token could use it to lead people in.
However, the time had gradually exceeded expectations, but the rolling magma did not have the slightest intention of sinking.
From the looks of it, the magma will not sink any further. Everyone, I wonder if anyone is willing to give it a try. If you can snatch the opportunity to enter the ruins first, your chances of obtaining the treasures will increase by a lot.
Somewhere, an old man in linen robes looked around at everyone present as he stroked his beard with one hand and spoke with a smile.
Everyone present snorted in disdain when they heard this.
The number of people present was no less than him regarding the thing within the magma.
If they did not have complete confidence, who would dare to casually speak of trying? If they were not careful, not to mention snatching the opportunity, they might not even have the chance to escape.
There were brave people in the world.
When the experts present looked at each other and sneered, a middle-aged man who had reached the strength of a 7-star source sect finally stepped out from the crowd.
He looked down at the boiling magma below and snorted coldly.
A bunch of old fogies. This is just a layer of magma. If you really want to, it won't be difficult to charge down.
As soon as the shout fell, the burly man's body suddenly rose into the air under countless mocking gazes.
He stood high above the mouth of the volcano. The power of the Great Path rapidly condensed and turned into a huge iron ball. It wrapped around his body like an iron wall.
Then, it smashed heavily into the magma below.
Bang! The metal ball swiftly sank into the magma amidst a muffled collision sound. It turned into a shadow and swiftly disappeared.
Everyone's eyes were uniformly fixed on the spot where the metal ball had landed.
It was as though they were waiting for something. However, after 10 minutes, they saw that the surface of the magma was still calm.
At this moment, some of the fellows who were eyeing the treasure finally could not resist and began to step forward.
After hesitating for a moment, each of them used their own methods and swiftly charged towards the magma below. High up in the sky, only the people from the major forces were still standing quietly. They looked down at the calm magma below and waited quietly. Compared to the Lone Rangers or the small forces, their attacks were more opportune. Puff, 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 puff.
However, in the next moment, just as the bodies of the experts rushing towards the magma approached the surface of the magma, the calm magma suddenly tumbled.
Sounds like waves breaking rang out in the sky. Huge pillars of magma immediately rushed into the sky, and within those pillars of fire were countless fire-scaled lizards. Ah! What followed was naturally a series of shrill screams that sounded like the wails of ghosts and howls of wolves. Almost at the same time, the remaining forces in the sky did not let go of the opportunity in front of them. They waved their hands, and streams of light shot out. The teams of these forces took advantage of the time when the fire-scaled lizards collided with the other experts in mid-air to smoothly pass through them and plunge into the magma below. GGGG. Immediately after, the countless fire-scaled lizards within the magma rapidly surged out. The leading origin venerables of the teams also took action at this moment, easily repelling the charging beasts. In fact, they even used their powerful Great Tao power to open up a space around the teams, preventing the magma from invading them.
It was under such circumstances that the majority of the experts who had barged into the entrance of the Fire Banyan ruins were forcefully killed.
As for the rest, they either used their powerful strength to force their way through, or by some stroke of luck, successfully reached the bottom of the magma. There, a thick energy barrier separated the two worlds. Only the tokens in their hands could allow them to pass through and enter the ruins. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Hua Banyan ruins, within a stone cave in the limestone valley, above the giant Hua Banyan tree, more than half of the enormous energy enveloping the Hua siblings had already disappeared. Only a fist-sized ball of energy remained, slowly hovering above the duo's lower abdomens. As the duo breathed and cultivated in sync, the enormous energy contained within turned into streams of pure Genesis chi that flowed into the duo's bodies. Xiao Yan, who was surrounded by 4 heavenly flames, was seated cross-legged under the tree. Most of his body was buried under the bright red, boiling hot lava. There was still boiling hot lava slowly flowing within the cracks. If one were to carefully observe, one would discover that the flowing frequency of the lava was gradually synchronizing with Xiao Yan's breathing. Once the two reached the same level, the swallowing of the flames would come to an end. Over 10 days later, in the Hua Banyan ruins, Bai Zijing led the 3 behind him and finally arrived in front of a giant valley. As he gazed at the mysterious area hidden in the darkness, a smile slowly rose from the corners of Bai Zijing's mouth. With a grasp of his hand, a slightly wrinkled ancient map fell into his hand. Spreading it open, one could see an extremely conspicuous red in the depths of the valley. It was not difficult to imagine that this object was a great treasure. "Let's go!" After taking a deep look at the map in his hand, Bai Zijing softly exclaimed. His figure moved, and he led the team towards the depths of the valley. Moments later, when the group of 4 neared the sky-covering black fog, Bai Zijing casually tossed out the map. His hands rapidly formed a seal, and a stream of light shot into the map. Next, with a faint tremor, the black fog that covered the valley stealthily dissipated. When the black fog dissipated, the valley before his eyes became clear. The danger that covered the surroundings also disappeared. Directly in front of his line of sight, a huge stone cave came into view. There was a huge withered tree, and there were 2 light spots on it. There was also... Bai Zijing's gaze slowly shifted downwards. However, when he saw the figure seated under the withered tree, his smiling eyes instantly turned murderous. A low and hoarse voice of anger abruptly resounded in the valley. "Xiao Yan!" Chapter 15:12. Bai Zijing had never expected that Xiao Yan's figure would actually appear in this place. "Xiao Yan die!" The moment he saw Xiao Yan, Bai Zijing's eyes were immediately filled with scarlet anger. In his fury, he circulated the Genesis chi in his body without reservation and shot forward like a bolt of lightning towards Xiao Yan in the stone cave. When enemies meet, their eyes turn red. When Bai Zijing learned of Bai Ruoxuan's death from Bai Rong, his soaring killing intent almost drove him crazy. Now that he saw Xiao Yan again in the Fire Banyan ruins, the emotions he had suppressed for a long time gushed into his mind without any hindrance. There was only one thought in Bai Zijing's mind, and that was to kill Xiao Yan. Clang! Suddenly, Bai Zijing's body, who was rushing forward, heavily collided with a huge barrier. The force of the collision caused him to fly back 100 meters, and as his body fell, a mouthful of dark red blood gushed out from his mouth. Only then did the other 3 people who rushed over realize that there was an extremely solid barrier protecting the stone cave. The astonishing degree of toughness caused even Bai Rong to feel a wave of shock after personally investigating it. This was set up by a Source Venerate expert. Could it be the one who saved them? Bai Rong rolled his eyes and immediately thought of the mysterious expert who had saved Xiao Yan and the others from his hands on the flowing fire plains. If it wasn't for the fact that there was a Source Venerate expert behind Xiao Yan and the others, then it must be the one who had saved them. Source Venerate expert? Hearing Bai Rong's words, the expressions of the other 2 people beside him changed, and fear involuntarily surfaced in their eyes. But then, a cold snort rang in their ears, and Bai Zijing's figure quickly arrived in front of the barrier. "Humph, whether he's a Source Venerate or not, Xiao Yan must die today." Bai Rong slowly nodded. Currently, they were merely a short distance away from Xiao Yan. If they were to let go of this opportunity because of this, it was likely that it would become incomparably difficult to kill Xiao Yan in the future. No matter what, they would definitely attack and kill Xiao Yan in this place. With this thought, Bai Rong slowly lifted his withered hand and placed it on the barrier in front of him. As he felt the blazing aura coming from it, he slowly closed his eyes. Drifting snowflakes rapidly fluttered between heaven and earth.
It wasn't until a moment later that he withdrew his hand and said in a serious voice, "Based on my investigation, that mysterious strong person is definitely not in this limestone valley.
If there is a fourth person in this rock cave, it will not be able to escape my eyes. First, young master, if we act now and eliminate Xiao Yan, it will definitely be the best opportunity."
Who?
Bai Zijing nodded slightly, a sinister smile.
His scarlet eyes stared at Xiao Yan on the other side of the barrier. His hands clenched fists, and his battle chi poured out, slamming his full force of full strength of his full strength.
Pang 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 pang. After Bai Zijing's first punch, the four of them continued to bombard the barrier with countless ferocious blows. The continuous sounds of explosions were as dense as raindrops. The barrier that enveloped the entire cave gradually trembled under the frenzied bombardment of the four of them. In the end, a tiny crack slowly spread out from the barrier. At the same time, the temperature of the magma that covered Xiao Yan's body within the rock cave was gradually withdrawn. The flowing magma within the numerous crack lines slowly flowed into Xiao Yan's body as he breathed. Finally, it turned into a cluster of scarlet flames that slowly merged with the other heavenly flames. Crack! Nearly 2 hours later, the solid barrier finally shattered with a loud and clear explosion under the combined efforts of the four, turning into Genesis chi fragments that filled the sky and swiftly scattered into the air. At the same time, the entire stone cave and Xiao Yan were completely exposed to the murderous gazes of Bai Zijing and the rest. "Xiao Yan, I want you to pay a debt of blood with blood." With a sharp roar, Bai Zijing's body abruptly jerked, and his figure instantly turned into a flash of lightning as he shot towards Xiao Yan. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan. With a clench of his hand, blue Genesis chi frantically gathered in his palm, transforming into a sharp arrow. With a wave of his arm, the arrow pierced towards Xiao Yan's head. Die! The arrow carried an ear-piercing sonic boom as it pierced through the empty air. It swiftly descended towards Xiao Yan's head. If this attack hit, it was likely that Xiao Yan's head would be instantly blasted apart by this arrow. However, just as the tip of the arrow was a couple of inches away from Xiao Yan's head, a hand had unknowingly landed on the hand that Bai Zijing used to grab the arrow. A shocking strength actually instantly clamped down on the hand that was violently waving and the hand that was holding the arrow. Soon after, a pair of dark black eyes slowly opened. At the same time that a dark red flame surged from deep within his eyes, an extremely hot and powerful energy wave suddenly swept out from within Xiao Yan's body. BZZ! Bai Zijing's body violently shook as he struggled free from Xiao Yan's grasp. At the same time, he borrowed the force of the wave to swiftly retreat. It was only when Bai Rong's palm caught him that the four individuals outside the stone cave turned to look at Xiao Yan, who was slowly getting to his feet under the withered tree. His aura. How can a 7-star source sect be so fast? He actually leapt from a 4-star source sect to a 7-star source sect in half a year's time. How is this possible? A shocked expression involuntarily surfaced on the faces of Bai Rong and the others when they sensed the tidal wave-like turbulent qi within Xiao Yan's body. Only Bai Zijing seemed to have thought of something in his heart after pausing for a moment. He extended his hand and waved it. The map of the limestone valley immediately landed in his hand. On the map, there was a bright red imprint in the deepest part of the limestone valley. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! A wild fury soared from his heart all the way to the top of his head. Bai Zijing involuntarily clenched his teeth and cursed angrily. How could he imagine that the treasure within the map, which he had paid such a terrible price to obtain, would actually be snatched away by Xiao Yan, who had killed his own family? Moreover, it had even raised his cultivation by 3 stars. This should have been a fortuitous encounter that belonged to him, but now it had all gone down the drain. Xiao Yan! I will tear you to pieces today and grind your bones to dust. Bai Zijing's rage was accompanied by soaring murderous hatred. His hands crossed as he tore the map in front of him to shreds. The instant he lifted his head, his extremely venomous gaze locked onto Xiao Yan. His foot slammed into the ground as Bai Zijing's body shot forward like a cannonball. Genesis chi poured out, forming a rain of arrows that covered the sky as they shot towards Xiao Yan. Chapter 15:13. When the rain of arrows that filled the sky shot towards Xiao Yan from within the rock cave like a black cloud, the latter's face was calm as he gently exhaled. After which, his feet suddenly stomped on the ground and the ground in front of him immediately burst apart. Numerous magma fire pillars rose from the ground and gathered together to form a magma wall, blocking all of the arrows that came toward him. Behind him, Bai Zijing pulled the bowstring and used the might of his arrow to forcefully break through the defense in front of Xiao Yan. The magma dispersed, and Bai Zijing's figure quickly approached Xiao Yan. In the process, several arrows were shot out in succession. His figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Xiao Yan. Using the bow as a blade, he swung it towards Xiao Yan's head. Clang! Immediately after, Xiao Yan raised his left arm. The moment he clenched his fist, a layer of scarlet magma that shone with a fiery light quickly covered his arm. Like a scarlet armor, it blocked the bow that contained a terrifying force. However, Bai Zijing seemed to be prepared for this. His figure suddenly turned, and the 3 arrows that followed immediately approached Xiao Yan's chest. The latter blocked them in time, but in the next moment, Bai Zijing's feet heavily kicked his chest. His body immediately retreated uncontrollably. After a dozen steps, he stepped heavily on a tree root behind him and stabilized his body. The collision between the two only lasted for a few breaths. When Bai Rong and the other 2 stepped forward, Xiao Yan and Bai Zijing had already pulled apart the distance between them. Seeing the method Xiao Yan used, Bai Rong could not help but recall the mysterious expert who had saved him. Speaking of which, that mysterious expert was able to freely control the power of magma. Looking at Xiao Yan's current state, it seemed that he also had some special attainments in this aspect. Moreover, he faintly felt that the blazing aura emitted from Xiao Yan's body seemed to be much stronger than before. Eldest young master, Xiao Yan's method cannot be judged by ordinary experts. You must not be careless. Bai Rong frowned and reminded Bai Zijing. Humph. He's just a defeated opponent. You only need to capture him. I will personally kill him and offer him to Rua Xian's soul. Hearing this, Bai Zijing coldly snorted in disdain. He had heard a little about the entanglement between Xiao Yan and Bai Rong, but after all, they had only been able to deal with it by relying on a high-grade formation. Now, even if Xiao Yan's cultivation had broken through to the level of a 7-star source ancestor, there was still a gap between them. Moreover, there were 4 people on their side. What could a mere source ancestor do? Hearing Bai Zijing's order, Bai Rong's heart may have some misgivings, but he still swiftly scattered to the 2 sides with the other 2. The 4 of them surrounded Xiao Yan under the tree. The atmosphere in the square immediately became extremely tense. Xiao Yan's expression instantly turned grave when he saw the 4 of them surrounding him. Compared to the previous time, the encirclement today was even more dangerous. 3 source ancestors and 1 source venerate attacked together, and he did not have the slightest room to defend himself. The 3 of them were fine, but the key was Bai Rong. After the previous lesson, his attacks today would definitely be unusually ruthless. Once he was hit, even if he did not die, he would be seriously injured. Xiao Yan, no matter what methods you have, you will definitely die today. The tense atmosphere did not last for long. With a furious roar, Bai Zijing took the lead and charged forward. His body flipped in the air as he sent a heavy kick downwards. The instant Xiao Yan's body was thrown into the air, the tree root beneath his feet was smashed to pieces with a bang. Immediately after, Bai Shang and the other 6-star source ancestor grabbed at him from both sides. As they approached, Xiao Yan controlled 2 lava pillars to block them before he swiftly rushed forward. Trying to leave? In the air, Bai Rong's old eyes stared venomously at Xiao Yan. With a heavy slap, snowflakes that filled the sky rapidly condensed in front of Xiao Yan, turning into numerous ice walls that completely sealed off his path. Die! Just as Xiao Yan frowned and froze, Bai Rong's ferocious roar suddenly rang out behind him. Xiao Yan's heart skipped a beat, and he decisively used the North King to block the latter's attack while he swiftly dodged. However, Bai Zijing's figure appeared out of thin air and attacked again. Xiao Yan's expression changed, and he decisively used a secret technique. His strength abruptly soared, and his body shook violently, forcing Bai Zijing back for a brief moment. Is that a secret technique? Bai Zijing sneered disdainfully when he felt Xiao Yan's aura instantly increase. He then ordered Bai Shang and the other elder to surround him while he and Bai Rong chased after him. However, I also want to give chase, but his current speed is even faster than Elder Bai Shang's. The 6-star source ancestor could not help but laugh bitterly when he saw Xiao Yan, whose shadow was almost unrecognizable. Even Bai Shang clenched his teeth and gave chase. After using the secret technique, Xiao Yan's strength was already comparable to a 9-star source ancestor. Additionally,
His strange agility do skills made it so that even someone like Bai Shang was unable to deal with him at full strength.
Humph, you can't hide.
Bai Rong coldly snorted when he heard this. Both of his hands swiftly formed a seal.
At the same time, the air within the cave swiftly turned icy cold. Endless cold region. The surrounding ground and stone walls were swiftly covered by a thick layer of ice after his cries sounded. Fine ice shards continued to condense in the air. Xiao Yan's speed also became much slower due to the sudden drop in temperature. Give chase. We must not give him the chance to retaliate. After witnessing Xiao Yan's strange fire lotus, Bai Sheng did not dare to be the slightest bit careless when facing Xiao Yan. He let out an explosive cry and took the lead to give chase. Xiao Yan waved his hand when he saw Bai Sheng swiftly shooting over. The Northern King beside him immediately charged forward. Soon after, Bai Zijing's figure appeared from the empty space beside him. Xiao Yan turned his hand and sent a palm strike towards Bai Sheng. As he withdrew, he did not hesitate to agglomerate a tent in the air and avoid Bai Rong's pursuit. Soon after, he met the 6-star source ancestor who was charging towards him. Both parties closed in on each other and punched one after another. After the two collided, Xiao Yan's hands rapidly formed a seal before he ruthlessly pushed it forward. Mountain River Seal. Although the 6-star source ancestor did not show any signs of weakness, he was still blasted back by the former with a single blow due to the difference in strength between the two sides. However, at this moment, Xiao Yan heard the sharp sound of something tearing through the air. His body hurriedly turned to the side, narrowly avoiding a whip kick that brushed past his ear. As he raised his head, Bai Zijing pressed forward. The instant Xiao Yan rapidly retreated, a withered palm slowly landed on his neck. Soon after, a strong force came and tightly gripped his neck. Die! Chi! Bai Rong's hand grabbed Xiao Yan's neck. A dense killing intent had already surfaced in Bai Rong's old eyes. He was just about to kill Xiao Yan with one hand when a sharp sword glow flashed past. Bai Rong's hand, which was grabbing Xiao Yan, was cut off along with a section of his arm. Ah! Just as the miserable cry rang out, another gust of wind blew. Bai Rong's body was strangely sent flying, and the section of his arm that was wrapped around Xiao Yan's neck was burned into nothingness the moment flames rose from the surface of his body. Soon after, Xiao Yan's face was covered in cold sweat as he quickly turned his head to look. In the empty space beside him, Xiao Xian, who wore green clothes and had a calm and amiable expression, was standing there. Chapter 15-14. Ancestor. Xiao Yan's expression involuntarily hardened when he saw Xiao Xian suddenly appear. Soon after, he let out an exclamation. Why are you here? Xiao Yan, who had recovered, involuntarily felt a little uncertain. At the same time, he could not help but be surprised. Xiao Xian was currently standing beside him, yet he felt a little unable to grasp the latter's aura. This kind of feeling was something that he had only sensed from people like Bai Rong. Something would have happened to you if you hadn't come. Xiao Xian smiled and casually glanced at Bai Zijing. He then glanced at the 6-star origin ancestor and looked at Bai Sheng, who was fighting with the North King in the distance. He sighed and said, even without that person, this team is invincible below the origin venerate level. Looks like you've encountered quite a bit of trouble this time. The people from the Bai clan are indeed a little troublesome. Xiao Yan gently waved his hand. The burning flame on the surface of his body gathered in his palm. His eyes were icy cold as he stared at Bai Zijing on the opposite side. Without Bai Rong, this fellow was nothing to him. You seem to have gained quite a lot this time. Xiao Xian couldn't help raising his eyebrows when he saw that the flames in Xiao Yan's palm were different from before. The former smiled and nodded, not intending to hide anything. Chi! As they chatted and laughed, the sound of wind being torn apart suddenly resounded in the air. Looking over, Bai Rong, who had been sent flying by Xiao Xian earlier, had already stood in front of Bai Zijing. Although the bleeding from his severed arm had stopped, his shriveled old face seemed abnormally pale at this moment. When Xiao Xian had appeared, Bai Rong already understood in his heart that the current Xiao Yan was definitely not someone he could kill. The most important thing now was the person beside him. First, young master. It's over. Let's retreat first. The guy beside Xiao Yan isn't easy to deal with. With my current strength, I have less than a 30% chance of winning against him. Just as Bai Zijing's face changed between green and white, Bai Rong's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Hearing this, Bai Zijing's expression immediately froze.
Then, his breathing trembled as he looked at the two people opposite him. In particular, when he looked at Xiao Yan, the surging killing intent in his eyes was even more difficult to suppress. However, even though he was in such a state of mind, the current situation was no longer up to him.
After clenching his teeth and forcefully stabilizing his mind, he finally nodded silently. At the same time, Bai Shang and the 6-star origin Zong swiftly returned to the duo's side. The Northern King had been stopped by Rong's energy pillar while he was in pursuit. After which, he was summoned back to Xiao Yan's side.
As if he had seen through the intentions of the four of them, Xiao Xian smiled and said with a calm expression, "What?
You want to leave after injuring someone?"
As his voice faded, a gust of wind whistled in the surrounding air.
The whistling hurricane was like a blade, easily shattering the ice that covered the stone wall. The swift and fierce sword Qi was deeply engraved into the stone wall. Bai Rong's old face twitched a few times at the sight of this. He propped up his single arm and blocked Bai Zijing behind him.
He did not dare to hold back as he rapidly circulated the Genesis Qi in his body and said in a low voice, "Although you are stronger than me, I'm afraid that you will end up in a life-and-death struggle if you want to keep us here.
I advise you to consider this carefully." As these words left his mouth, surging Genesis Qi swept out from Bai Rong's body, completely blocking the domineering sword intent. At the same time, his old face grew even paler. Xiao Xian smiled faintly when he heard this. His eyes slowly met Bai Rong's as he softly said, "Life and death struggle? Or an egg striking a rock? We will only know after we try." Qi! The next moment, Xiao Xian waved his sword finger, and an earth-shattering sword Qi suddenly swept out, slashing towards Bai Rong like a hot knife through butter. At the same time, Bai Rong acted. With his full strength, the azure-white Genesis Qi condensed into a giant python in the void above his head. It hissed at the sky, and then waved its huge tail and collided with the incoming sword Qi. "Protect the young master and leave here." At the same time, a roar came from Bai Rong's mouth. The three people behind him immediately moved and rushed out of the cave. Boom! An astonishing explosion erupted from the point of collision between the giant python and the sword Qi. Xiao Xian casually blocked the sweeping energy shockwaves, and he and Xiao Yan looked at the three people who were rapidly running away. The former scrunched his brows and said coldly, "Want to leave?" "Say." As Xiao Yan's hand rose and fell, a large sword appeared out of nowhere in the empty space a short distance in front of Bai Zijing's group. After which, it was heavily inserted into the ground. It was just like a tall wall that spanned across the land, blocking the path of the three of them. At the same time, Xiao Yan dispatched the Northern King to chase after Bai Zijing's group, who were swiftly fleeing. Dang! Then the moment Xiao Xian attacked, Bai Rong suddenly rushed forward, forming a seal above his head and slamming it down on Xiao Yan. Xiao Xian coldly snorted. Stubborn. Xiao Xian and Xiao Yan helplessly took a couple of steps back. Bai Rong, on the other hand, used this opportunity to swiftly flash behind the three of them. His heart sunk when he saw the enormous sword in front of him. Xiao Xian's strength was actually beyond his expectations. Xiao Xian's strength was clearly beyond his expectations. Xiao Xian's strength was clearly beyond his expectations. Xiao Xian's strength was clearly beyond his expectations. Damn it, with my current condition, I can't break through this defense in a short period of time. The expression on his old face was incomparably grave as he glanced at Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian in the distance. Soon after, his eyes landed on the 6-star source zone in front of him. After which, a miserable cry resounded over the limestone valley when Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian raised their eyes. Bai Rong had actually used his 5 fingers as blades behind the 6-star origin sect master, and pierced his lower abdomen. He paused for a moment, and then fiercely threw the 6-star origin sect master's body towards the giant sword in front of them. Boom! Terrifying energy swept out from the giant sword amidst an earth-shaking explosion, and it instantly flattened all the obstacles in front of it. This madman, he won't even let his own people off. Xiao Xian could not help but shake his head in disgust when he saw how vicious Bai Rong was. Sword Qi surged around him, and his figure strangely disappeared from the spot. In the next instant, he had already appeared in front of Bai Rong and coldly said, "I definitely won't let a person as vicious as you leave this place today." However, Bai Rong actually smiled ferociously in the face of Xiao Xian's cold reprimand. His hand, which was covered in fresh blood, was clenched tightly. His gradually reddened eyes swept back and forth between Xiao Xian and Xiao Yan in the distance. His breathing had suddenly become much rougher. Haha, from the moment the crown prince died at your hands, I was already a walking corpse in this world. From today onwards, if the two of you aren't eliminated, you will definitely become a great enemy of my Bai clan in the future. Since that's the case, why don't you stay here with me forever? The instant the savage laughter resounded, Bai Rong's shriveled body suddenly swelled. In a short span of a few breaths, he had turned from a skinny old man into a bloated monster. From the looks of it, he could explode at any time. This guy actually chose to self-destruct. Xiao Xian immediately frowned. Seeing that Bai Rong had already become like this, if this continued, even they would be affected. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yan, I said that no matter what, I will definitely kill you. Even if I die today, I will drag you down with me. Bai Rong, whose body had swelled to the extreme, turned around and stared at Xiao Yan with a pair of scarlet eyes that were gradually protruding out of their sockets. His body flashed as he madly charged towards Xiao Yan. Behind him, Xiao Xian's face immediately darkened when he saw this. A decisive killing intent condensed in his eyes, and then he clenched his hand into a fist. In a flash of light, the serene orchid sword appeared in his hand. With a thought, the sword aura condensed in the blink of an eye. Accompanied by a smooth wave of sword qi, Bai Rong's body, which had almost caught up to Xiao Yan, was cut in half at the waist. Chapter 15:15. Bai Rong died under Xiao Xian's sword. However, the wild violent energy that erupted from his body just as he was about to die still sent Xiao Yan flying. Xiao Yan's body landed miserably on the ground. A bloody sweetness immediately surged from his throat. He curled the corner of his mouth and fresh blood rolled down. He was after all a dignified Yuan Zun expert. No matter what, he could not be underestimated. Even though he had died, the strength that he had unleashed at the last moment was still not something that Xiao Yan could easily endure. After dealing with Bai Rong, Xiao Xian turned around and looked out of Limestone Valley. Bai Zijing and Bai Sheng had already disappeared from his sight. Xiao Xian could not help but frown slightly. It's a pity that those two ran away. Otherwise, no one would know that we were the culprits. Not necessarily. Xiao Yan wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and quickly swallowed 2 pills. He stepped forward and smiled when he saw Xiao Xian's expression. Although Bai Zijing ran away, the other person won't be able to. Xiao Yan turned around and swept his gaze across the valley. After confirming a certain direction, he took the lead and flew towards it. Behind him, Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows, as if he had understood something. A moment later, the two of them arrived at a call in the mountains. At this moment, Bai Sheng was being beaten until he was repeatedly forced back by the Northern King. He was seriously injured. When he saw Xiao Yan and Xue Ying, who had hurried over, his originally pale face instantly lost all of its color. Xiao Xian raised his sword. Bai Sheng's expression changed drastically and he hurriedly shouted, "Wait! You're an origin venerate. Don't tell me you're going to fight." Noisy. However, before Bai Sheng's words sounded, he was swung out by a sword aura from Xiao Xian. Xiao Yan by the side let out a cold snort. He summoned the Northern King back and extended his hand. A suction force surged from his palm. Soon after, a storage ring flew out from Bai Sheng's body and was held in his hand. After dealing with these troubles, Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian waited quietly in front of the fire banyan tree. Half a day later, the last trace of energy floating in front of the Hua siblings was absorbed into their bodies. After a long time, the two of them opened their eyes. Fiery light overflowed, and their auras had completely stepped into the origin ancestor level. Even with Xiao Yan's current strength, he involuntarily smacked his mouth when he sensed the aura that only belonged to an expert from the origin zone class within their bodies. After all, many people on the continent had trained with all their might for their entire lives in order to reach this level. In the end, they were stuck at the peak of the origin Huang class until their deaths. It was likely that these two people were destined to become experts at this level the moment their strength broke through the origin Huang class. Such a different life really caused one to feel a myriad of emotions. When the siblings descended from the tree and saw Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian beside him, the expression on their faces was slightly startled. Soon after, their eyelids were lowered as they became quiet. Hua Qing's figure had appeared in their minds when they had descended into a slumber and told them everything. Although they were shocked, They still did not dare to believe that they were unable to see Hua Qing when they woke up. Xiao Yan could only adopt an understanding attitude toward the feelings of the brother and sister at this moment.
He quietly waited by the side for a moment before Hua Qing was the first to recover from his sorrowful mood.
His voice trembled slightly as he said, "Mr. Xiao Yan, Grandpa Hua Qing wanted us to follow you before he left." Xiao Yan nodded gently and took a deep breath. He looked around and slowly said, "We really can't stay here any longer." "Indeed, we can't stay here any longer. Without the protection of the black fog, those fellows outside will quickly rush in here. If you have no plans for now, you can leave with us first. If you have any ideas in the future, you can go somewhere else." The Hua siblings faced each other when these words were uttered. Hua Xian's delicate hands were hugging her brother's arm. She appeared to be waiting for his reply. Hua Qing also mused for a moment before slowly nodding. After all, no matter how one put it, it was too far-fetched for them to survive in the middle region where many experts were present with their current strength. Now that Xiao Yan was willing to lend them a hand, moreover, he was someone that Hua Qing had personally chosen, they naturally did not have any reason to reject him. The group of 4 rested in the cave for a while, and then under Xiao Xian's lead, they quickly rushed towards the exit of the Fire Banyan ruins. However, not long after the 4 of them left the Limestone Valley, a group was rushing over from the right at the end of their line of sight. Their target was undoubtedly the Limestone Valley. Is that the Ouyang clan? These fellows really pay close attention to the Bai clan. Xiao Yan curled his lips and smiled. Looking at the Ouyang clan's late appearance, it didn't seem like they were here to pick up scraps. If Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian hadn't arrived in time, these fellows would have directly robbed Bai Zijing and the others after they succeeded. On the surface, the 3 great clans are equal and keep a distance from each other, but this kind of robbery is really done a lot in secret. Xiao Xian shook his head and chuckled. He quickly glanced at the dilapidated city below and said, "Try to avoid them as much as possible. It's okay to meet them normally, but now it's hard to say." "Okay." Xiao Yan nodded. He communicated with Hua Qing and Hua Xian behind him. The few of them swiftly descended into the city below.
Each of them hid their auras and quietly rushed forward.
After a while,
in the team that was rushing over the city, an old man suddenly stopped and let out a soft sound of surprise. Beside him, Ouyang Miao also stopped and asked in confusion, "Elder Ming, is there any movement?" The old man called Elder Ming frowned slightly and said in surprise, "I did sense an extremely secretive aura just now, but it was only for an instant before it completely disappeared."
"It suddenly disappeared from your senses. Is it a source sovereign?" Ouyang Miao frowned and quickly looked in the direction of Limestone Valley. He then suspiciously scanned the city below. Elder Ming slowly shook his head and said, "Not really. I can see that it's someone who has just entered the source sect, but for some reason, it suddenly disappeared." Ouyang Miao's brows relaxed slightly when he heard this. Just as his thoughts were spinning rapidly, a high-level source sect behind him suddenly said, "Actually, it's not hard to determine." "Oh?" Ouyang Miao raised his eyebrows and looked at the latter with Elder Ming beside him. That person continued to speak. "Previously, when we met Bai Zijing, that fellow was in a sorry state. The guards beside him had also disappeared. Perhaps they had encountered something in the Limestone Valley that caused their vitality to be greatly damaged. That aura just now might have been left behind by his dying guards. It just so happened that Elder Ming sensed it." Ouyang Miao's brows relaxed greatly when he heard this. These words made sense. Moreover, they did not know the exact situation in Limestone Valley. If they wasted time here because of an indescribable aura, it would seem like they were content to stay in their own corner. "Fine. Leave 2 people to search for the owner of that aura outside Limestone Valley. If any outsiders approach, kill them all. The rest, follow me into Limestone Valley." After a moment of hesitation, Ouyang Miao immediately made arrangements, leaving only 2 7-star Source Sect members to guard the perimeter while the rest immediately headed into Limestone Valley. At the same time, in a certain corner of the city below, Hua Xian was curled up in her brother Hua Xing's arms with a timid look on her face.
The aura that Elder Ming had sensed earlier was her.
Fortunately, Xiao Xian had acted in time to cover it up and prevent that fellow from locking onto her position. Otherwise, it would be difficult to guarantee that there would not be any trouble if they met. After a long while, Xiao Xian confirmed that those experts had left. Only then did he smile at Hua Xian and gently say, "Little girl, it's fine now. Let's go." Hua Xing gently lifted Hua Xian, whose delicate body was trembling. His hand gently comforted her back. A thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind. He immediately flicked his finger and a wisp of scarlet-red volcanic rock flame flew out. It danced gently in the empty space in front of the young lady, emitting a warm aura. That familiar feeling also caused Hua Xian's heart to swiftly calm down. A week later, Xiao Yan's group successfully left the Fire Banyan ruins. When they passed through the magma, whether it was because of the Fire Banyan siblings or because of the aura of the volcanic rock flame on Xiao Yan's body, those beasts did not stop them. This saved them a lot of trouble, and even Xiao Xian heaved a sigh of relief. One had to know that even with his cultivation, when he passed through the magma, he had a headache from the endless stream of fire-scaled lizards. It was only when the few of them broke through the waves that Xiao Yan turned his head to look at the solid and thick energy barrier in the depths of the magma. Only then did he turn his head to look at Xiao Xian and spit out the doubts that had lingered in his heart along the way. Ancestor, when you came here, you didn't have the Fire Banyan token, right? In that case, how did you enter? Xiao Xian was first taken aback when he heard this. Soon after, he looked at the Hua siblings with a strange gaze and pursed his lips into a smile. The instant he turned around and flew into the sky, a low murmur quietly flowed out from between his lips. Exploded. Chapter 15-16. After leaving the Fire Banyan remains, the four of them naturally headed back to the Xiao clan. There was no need to mention that Xiao Xian's aim was to bring Xiao Yan back. Even if it was to find a place for Hua Xing and Hua Xian to stay, the Xiao clan was currently the most suitable place to stay despite the fact that the people there were a little tricky. Along the way, Xiao Yan used the serene orchid sword in Xiao Xian's hand to learn about the decisive battle between the second elder, Xiao Yiqian, and Sword Saint Yulan. Moreover, from the tone of Xiao Xian when he mentioned the two of them, it was likely that one of them had died. Of course, Xiao Yan was more concerned about the matter of the heaven questioning pill compared to the outcome of the decisive battle between the two of them. After all, this concerned Bai Hua's life. If he could use this opportunity to obtain the medicinal pill, it would undoubtedly resolve a large knot in Xiao Yan's heart. However, the outcome of the matter often went against one's thoughts. The answer that Xiao Xian had given caused Xiao Yan to feel disappointed. At the same time, his brows were tightly knit together. Since the two of them did not have the heaven questioning pill, Bai Hua's matter could only fall on the third heaven questioning pill or the ancestor of the pill tower. However, these 2 points caused Xiao Yan to feel as though they were far beyond his reach. Forget about the third heaven-seeking pill whose whereabouts were unknown. Just a person like the ancestor of the pill tower was someone that he could only look up to. Under the influence of various complicated emotions, the group traveled leisurely for nearly 2 months before finally returning to the territory of the Xiao clan. Tianyang City. The group of 4 exited the teleportation formation and headed straight for Xiao City. However, halfway there, they met the head of the clan, Nan, in Tianyang City. Haha, young Master Xiao Yan, I haven't seen you for more than 2 years. Your cultivation has improved so quickly. It really makes this old man blush with shame. Nan came forward with a smile and bowed to Xiao Yan. His respectful attitude caused some of the surrounding strangers to be stunned. Xiao Yan's body immediately turned numb when he heard the way Nan addressed him. He frowned and curled his lips. Patriarch N, it's better if you just call me Mister. I can't accept such a form of address from young master. As soon as these words came out, the girl Fireheart snorted and almost laughed out loud. For someone of Xiao Yan's age to be called young master, it really felt like autumn leaves pretending to be young leaves. Even Anan pursed his lips awkwardly for a while, then he gave a few dry laughs, turned to Xiao Xian and said respectfully, Young master, Xiao Xian, I'm Xiao Xian. Haha, Elder Xiao Yan, you've just become the new head of the cabinet. I came to congratulate you some time ago, but I didn't expect you to not be in the clan. I also didn't expect to meet you today with Mr. Xiao Yan. Cabinet in charge. The expression on Xiao Yan's face was immediately stunned when he heard these words. Soon after, a stunned expression surged. His face was filled with disbelief as he looked at Xiao Xian beside him. His heart was surprised. The latter had not mentioned this matter during these many days. Looking at Xiao Yan's shocked gaze, Xiao Xian raised his eyebrows and chuckled, then he shrugged indifferently. But immediately after, when the former was about to ask, Xiao Xian's gaze fell directly on Anan. Patriarch N, we've been on the road for 2 months. If there's nothing else, I think we'd better go back to the clan and rest first. In that case, I do have something to report to Elder Xiao Xian. Anan was slightly startled when he heard this. He hesitated for a moment, then quickly spoke. 3 months ago, the Yin family applied to temporarily take over some of the streets in Liang City, and there has been a report. Xiao Xian lowered his eyebrows and smiled, then said in a slightly cold tone, "You can directly report this matter to Elder Xiao Li of the Ancient Palace. It seems that you don't have to look for me, right?" In this regard, Anan shook his head gently and said, "Elder Li has been in the Ancient Palace for a long time, and he has no right to intervene in most of the clan's matters. Although he is in charge of this matter, the Zhao family is after all under Elder Xiao Dingtian. Even if Elder Xiao Dingtian has retired to the back mountain, this matter is equivalent to a hot potato in anyone's hands. Moreover," at the end of his words, Anan's expression became even more cautious and cautious. His following words caused Xiao Xian's expression to change instantly. According to Anan, the Zhao family's power was no longer as simple as Liang City. Among the cities under the Xiao clan, there were more than a dozen cities under their control, and the rest included nearly 100 family forces of various sizes. I didn't expect the Zhao family's power to be so great that even the cities are under their control. After a long while, after Xiao Yan's group left Tianyang City, Xiao Xian finally muttered with a solemn expression. Then a fierce look surged in his eyes as he said in a cold voice, "Looks like it's time to teach them a lesson." The few of them became quiet for the rest of the journey. Xiao Yan quietly mused in his heart. When he had left Tianyang City earlier, he had learned from Xiao Xian's explanation that the 3 great chiefs had been personally abolished by the ancestor of the Xiao clan. Xiao Yan felt surprised after understanding this. At the same time, he involuntarily recalled that mysterious expert when he had left the Xiao clan back then. Xiao Yan mused like this for the entire journey. Finally, Xiao City appeared in front of him. Huarong and his sister looked at the magnificent and bustling city in front of them with astonishment. Their eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of amazement. When they had been wandering around the fiery flowing plains, they had been to many cities. However, compared to the city in front of them, they were undoubtedly dwarfed by it. Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian involuntarily chuckled when they saw the two of them become excited. They temporarily cast aside their thoughts and led the two of them into the city. Their originally hurried and heavy footsteps became much lighter. Xiao Yan's gaze followed the two in front of him and scanned the surroundings. He was a little absent-minded as he looked at the city in front of him. He recalled that he had encountered many troublesome matters when he first arrived here. Now that he was here again, he naturally could not help but sigh emotionally. Someone wanted to throw me out the last time I came here. A mocking smile slowly rose from the corners of Xiao Yan's mouth as he thought of a certain unlucky fellow. However, just as he was speaking in his heart, an incomparably shocked voice suddenly shrieked from the front of the street. "Xiao Yan! You're back?" Hearing the somewhat familiar voice, the expression on Xiao Yan's face immediately stilled. His gaze followed and looked over. Soon after, a face that carried some fear was reflected in his eyes. "Xiao Chuhang?" Xiao Yan was startled, and the corners of his mouth curled into a playful smile. "Me too." Soon after, the body in front of Xiao Chuhang blocked and a figure stood in front of him. The figure's sharp gaze stared at Xiao Yan as a cold word was spat out. Xiao Yan was slightly surprised when he saw this. He tilted his head and swept his gaze back and forth between the two of them. He slowly said, "The two of you are actually together. How surprising." Chapter 15-17. Xiao Yan grinned as he looked at the man who was clearly much more muscular than the last time they met. "Xiao Yang, you're actually with Xiao Chuhang given your arrogant personality?" Xiao Yan was momentarily stunned when he saw that the two of them were actually walking together, and the former's submissive manner. Given Xiao Chuhang's domineering character, when did he learn to stand behind someone else? Haha, of course it's his brother's masterpiece. Xiao Xian, who was beside him, smiled and said, "After the clan meeting ended, Xiao Yang was quite famous in the clan. However, due to the power of his bloodline, it was difficult for the upper echelons of the clan to take notice of him. It was Xiao Feng who personally handed Xiao Chuhang over to him. On the surface, it was to let Xiao Yang discipline him, but in reality, he was using his connections in the clan to let Xiao Yang get the resources that should belong to him." Hearing this, Xiao Yan's eyebrows twitched. He said with a teasing smile, "I really couldn't tell that guy was so warm-hearted."
He also fought his way up from the bottom of the clan.
Naturally, he can understand the feeling of being seen but ignored. Xiao Xian sighed softly as his gaze fell on Xiao Chuhang.
There was some admiration in his eyes as he said in a low voice. However, that little fellow seems to have some awareness.
Although he does appear to hate Xiao Yang on the surface, he still admires the latter's hard work. After following Xiao Yang for over 2 years, he has grown quite a bit. Xiao Yan nodded in agreement. Putting everything else aside, the fact that Xiao Chuhang could obediently follow behind Xiao Yang was enough to prove what Xiao Xian said. Xiao Yang on the opposite side ignored Xiao Yan's ridicule. His eyes shifted to Xiao Xian as he bowed slightly. It was a rare display of respect for someone. I won't get involved in the matters between the two of you. Sensing the meaning in Xiao Yang's eyes, Xiao Xian smiled and then retreated to the side with Hua Xian. Seeing this, Xiao Yang's gaze once again landed on Xiao Yan. His tone was still as arrogant as it was back then. Humph, I thought you wouldn't dare to come back. This low cry immediately caused quite a number of passers-by to stop in their tracks. Ever since the clan gathering, Xiao Yang's name had become quite well known in Xiao City for the past 2 years. Hence, when everyone saw that Xiao Yang had actually displayed such an attitude towards a young man, quite a number of people's eyes had some pity surfacing in them when they looked at Xiao Yan. Ignoring the gazes of those people around him, Xiao Yan merely smiled in response to the former's words and slowly said, "You're shameless enough to stay behind, so what reason do I have not to come back?" Humph, cut the crap. Make your move. Today, I will definitely defeat you and wipe away my previous humiliation. With a cold snort, Xiao Yan took a heavy step forward. Instantly, a tyrannical aura ruthlessly rushed towards Xiao Yan like a storm. The latter sensed the aura and lightly nodded his head, smiling as he said, "Not bad. You've already advanced to the advanced 5-star origin ancestor level in 2 years." After speaking, Xiao Yan also slowly took a step forward.
When the aura from the opposite side arrived in front of him, a vast pressure that was even more surging than the former suddenly swept out from Xiao Yan's body.
It instantly shattered the incoming pressure like a hot knife through butter.
At the same time, the expressions of the onlookers on both sides of the street changed drastically due to this astonishing pressure.
7-star origin ancestor. The instant the aura from Xiao Yan's body swept out, Xiao Yang clearly sensed Xiao Yan's current strength. Dense shock surged onto his face as he cried out in surprise. During these 2 years, even though he had been training hard day and night without sleeping and had used the many resources of the Xiao clan, his cultivation had merely risen by 1 star. Even so, he could be considered quite good among those of the same generation. However, Xiao Yan's cultivation had leaped from a 3-star source ancestor to a 7-star source ancestor after 2 years of not seeing him. This speed was many times faster than his own. This fellow, how did he do it? At this very moment, even with Xiao Yang's arrogance, the shock in his heart could not help but surface on his face. The black-robed fellow before him was simply a freak. "Do you still want to fight?" Xiao Yan asked with a faint smile. "Cut the crap. I've been madly training for the past 2 years for the sake of defeating you. No matter how much you've improved, I will not back down." An explosive roar was emitted from Xiao Yang's throat as his feet heavily stomped on the ground. The instant the rock under his feet burst apart, his body abruptly shot forward. Genesis Chi surged from his right fist as it viciously smashed towards Xiao Yan. Thud. However, Xiao Yan was able to block such a powerful force with one hand. After which, he merely took half a step back and easily resolved the force that was attacking his arm. He gently twisted his hand that was holding Xiao Yang's fist as Genesis Chi poured out from his palm, pushing Xiao Yang back with a single blow. Subsequently, he slowly raised his eyes and nodded. "Your explosive power has increased again. It seems that your hard work over the past 2 years has not only been focused on your cultivation." Hearing this, Xiao Yang remained unmoved. He turned his gaze and exchanged glances with Xiao Chuhang beside him. The two of them nodded in unison. When they looked back again, the two of them actually raised their hands at the same time. The seals formed between their hands were surprisingly the same. "Is this a fusion do skill? You guys have even learned to find helpers for yourselves." Upon seeing this, even with Xiao Yan's understanding of the two, a look of surprise involuntarily appeared on his face. With a thought, the Genesis Chi in his body began to rapidly circulate. In the face of such a technique, even he could not underestimate it. Wind convergence. Rock whale howl. While the Genesis chi in Xiao Yan's body was rapidly circulating, a whale formed from rock rapidly materialized in the air in front of the Xiao Yang duo. Its large mouth opened as a terrifying suction force frantically surged out from the whale's body. Under the duo's control, the whale viciously charged towards Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan, this move can be considered a greeting gift from the two of us. Whale absorbs all rivers. As he felt the terrifying suction force heading towards him, Xiao Yan's body began to lose control for a time. Even so, the expression on his face grew increasingly heated as he laughed heartily and shouted, "Since that's the case, I'll accept it." Under everyone's gazes, Xiao Yan's right hand suddenly clenched into a fist. The instant his 5 fingers clenched tightly, scarlet red flames immediately surged out and coiled around his entire right arm like a magma armor. Subsequently, it abruptly blasted out, charging straight towards the whale's bloody mouth. Bzz. That whale swallowed half of Xiao Yan's arm into its mouth amidst the swallowing sound. However, the scarlet flame that was burning on it borrowed the wild wind around it to become even fiercer. Moreover, it was repeatedly sucked into the body of the rock whale. After over 10 breaths, the strength of the flame became even fiercer. A cluster of scarlet color gradually spread from the abdomen of the rock whale. At the same time, the expressions on the faces of Xiao Yang and Xiao Chu Hang on the opposite side also began to become serious. Ha! With a low roar, the half of Xiao Yan's arm that had been swallowed by the rock whale trembled violently, and the fierce heavenly fire suddenly soared several times. Immediately after, under the shocked gazes of the surrounding crowd, scarlet-red cracks rapidly spread on the surface of the rock whale. The heavenly fire that gushed out from the cracks actually melted the body of the rock whale into magma. The terrifyingly high temperature that spread out caused the temperature of the area to rise rapidly, and even the air became much drier. Under such an unforeseen event, the crazy suction force also quickly dissipated as the body of the rock whale melted. In less than a few minutes, the huge rock whale completely melted into a pool of magma, which then drifted into the air under the control of Xiao Yan. When the flames completely dissipated, the atmosphere on the field gradually calmed down. Many people's gazes that were fixed on Xiao Yan finally began to ripple a little. Chapter 15:18. Xiao Yan? That's right. Isn't this fellow the one who caused an uproar in the Xiao clan back then? I heard that he left after that. It is unexpected that not only has he returned, but he has become even stronger. Even Xiao Yang is no match for him. Hey, what kind of news is this? I have long heard that Xiao Yang overcame all obstacles in the clan gathering of the Xiao clan back then. In the end, he fell in front of Xiao Yan. Hence, didn't he say earlier that he wanted to avenge his previous humiliation? Unfortunately, he was still defeated. A discussion about Xiao Yan immediately sounded on the street when the memories from a couple of years ago were once again flipped through in everyone's minds. Everyone fought to describe some of the things that had happened back then. Although they had only heard about it, it was as though they had personally experienced it when it was spread from their mouths. Private conversations continued to spread throughout the street. At this moment, Xiao Yan, who had withdrawn his flame, had a face full of praise as he looked at the two people opposite him, whose expressions were not too good. He slowly stepped forward and smiled as he said, "Not bad. A very good dose skill. I can see that you were holding back just now." Humph. There is no need to console us. If we were to talk about holding back, didn't you also not use your full strength? Even though this was the case, Xiao Yang's face was still cold. The former smiled indifferently and shook his head. "I must say that if you were to meet an ordinary 7-star origin sect with this move of yours, you would be able to put up a fight." Xiao Yang was initially startled when he heard this. He was naturally surprised to be acknowledged by his opponent. However, after hearing Xiao Yan's words, he had placed himself on the other side of the battle. "Since you have returned this time around, you should properly stay behind." Xiao Chu Hang by the side suddenly said something that caused Xiao Yan to be surprised. In his impression, this fellow was eager to see him go as far away as possible. It was unexpected that he would actually say such words to persuade him to stay. Xiao Chu Hang by the side suddenly said something that caused Xiao Yan to be surprised. "Yes." Xiao Yan pursed his mouth and smiled. He immediately nodded heavily and did not say anything else. After which, he swiftly rushed to the entrance of the Xiao clan with the Xiao Xian trio in front of these two people's gazes. After a long while, the group of 4 appeared in front of the familiar courtyard. The moment they stepped in,
two figures hurriedly ran out from the depths of the courtyard. At a glance, it was Bai Hua and Lian Er. Both parties had not seen each other for a long time. Now that Xiao Yan had returned, they naturally could not help but hug each other in surprise. Soon after, everyone entered the depths of the villa together. Along the way, Lian Er's gaze curiously observed the Huarong siblings beside Xiao Yan. Only when everyone was seated in the living room and Xiao Yan gave a general introduction did Hua Xing and Hua Xian finally enter the joyous atmosphere. Now that Xiao Yan had returned and Xiao Yan had made arrangements, the siblings naturally moved into Xiao Yan's courtyard. News of Xiao Yan's return to the clan swiftly spread as though it had grown wings after he returned to the mansion. Within a short period of time, it had spread throughout the entire Xiao clan. Quite a number of people were immediately alarmed by this news. Xiao clan's back mountain. In the dense forest, surprise immediately surfaced on Xiao Zhen's old face when he heard the report from a figure in front of him. He involuntarily cried out. "What did you say? That little fellow has advanced to a 7-star origin sect?" "That's right. Tisk tisk, they are indeed worthy of being grandfather and grandson. Their monstrous cultivation speed is truly monstrous." Other than this, even the combined attack of Xiao Yang and Xiao Chuhang was blocked by Xiao Yan with just one hand. Xiao Zhen lifted his eyebrows slightly when he heard this. He mused for a moment before nodding. He still had some understanding of Xiao Yan's fighting strength in his heart. Xiao Yan had been able to defeat a 4-star origin zone when Xiao Yan was a 3-star origin zone. Now that Xiao Yan's actual cultivation had risen to such an extent, his true fighting strength was naturally incomparable to the past. Xiao Zhen exhaled a deep breath of air and gently lifted his finger. The human figure in front of him quietly disappeared. A pair of turbid old eyes looked in Xiao Yan's direction. However, at this moment, a ray of light suddenly shot out from the calm space behind the first elder and struck Xiao Zhen's back. Chi! Under the daylight, the ray of light was almost hidden in the void, and it was extremely difficult to discover with the naked eye. However, in the end, it strangely disappeared when it was about 10 feet away from Xiao Zhen's body. Immediately after, a deflated sound rang out beside the straw hut not far away. The figure appeared. Her delicate figure matched with an exquisite and pretty face. Shockingly, it was Xiao Ling Er. "Boring. Seeing that you were so engrossed in your thoughts, I thought I would succeed this time." The young girl walked forward with a somewhat depressed expression on her face. Then she sat down beside the old man. The latter was not annoyed. He only withdrew his thoughts and gently stroked his beard with a smile. "You've improved. Your control of the power of the Great Path has become more and more skillful. Even I can't see through your current attacks. Pa, 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 pa. It would be strange if you could see with your back facing me." Xiao Linger wrinkled her nose. She was not moved by the old man's compliments at all. Xiao Zhen was used to this. He smiled with a doting expression and continued. "Girl, I just received a piece of news. Do you want to hear it?" Hearing this, the young girl snorted. She curled her lips and turned around, but she ignored Xiao Zhen's words. However, immediately after, "Xiao Yan has returned." The moment the words left her mouth, the young girl immediately stood up from the ground and said in surprise, "Really?" Xiao Zhen involuntarily let out a bitter smile when he saw the sudden change in the girl's attitude. He immediately nodded and stated Xiao Yan's current position. Xiao Ling Er's lovely body immediately moved when she heard this. She rushed down the mountain. Behind her, Xiao Zhen hurriedly stopped her and said, "He has just returned. He hasn't rested yet. Go the next day." When the shout sounded, the human figures on the small path in the distant mountain forest had already disappeared. It was a long while before a response was transmitted over. Only then did the old man helplessly sigh. He could not help but envy Xiao Yan in his heart. The girl whom he had painstakingly raised had actually submitted to him in the blink of an eye because of Xiao Yan's return. This really caused people to feel a little jealous. At the same time, Xiao Dingtian and the others in the other parts of the Xiao clan had also received the news that Xiao Yan had returned to the clan. For a time, some were happy, while others were sad. In the garden, after half a day of interaction, the relationship between the Hua siblings and the others had quickly become much more harmonious. Hua Xing and Bai Hua could be considered to be of the same lineage. Moreover, the two of them did not speak much. Just sitting together could be considered a kind of tacit understanding. As for Hua Xin and Lian Er, compared to men,
The relationship between women had undoubtedly warmed up by several times. In just a short while, the two young girls had become much closer. As they chatted, their lovely laughter sounded continuously like silver bells. This scene also caused Xiao Yan to feel surprised.
At the same time, the depths of his eyes became a little absent-minded. Only when night fell did the travel-weary few people return to their rooms.
The continuous month of hurrying had indeed caused the Huarong siblings to be physically and mentally exhausted. Only Xiao Yan was lying on the roof by himself. His eyes, which were reflected by the stars, reflected a somewhat disappointed and frustrated expression. Chapter 15-19. Under the quiet night sky, Xiao Yan's body lazily lay on the roof. The emotions in his heart were somewhat complicated. Xiao Yan's gaze looked at the deep night sky. His recent encounters during this period of time repeatedly replayed in his mind. This was especially the case when he recalled the intimate relationship between Lian Er and Hua Xian during the day. Xiao Yan's deep memory of a white-colored long dress and delicate body involuntarily surfaced. Little fairy doctor. Once the memories in the depths of one's heart were dug out, it was difficult to hide them. He muttered softly over and over again. The days when the girl in a white dress accompanied him became increasingly clear in Xiao Yan's mind. Even though many years had passed, it still felt like yesterday when he recalled it. From the inconspicuous small town at the foot of the mountain to the continent of experts where heroes stood side by side, the girl had no regrets no matter how many dangers she encountered along the way. Even when he came to this foreign continent alone, she still forcefully broke through the barrier and evened out the distance between them by an entire world. However, in the end, sigh. Xiao Yan could not help but sigh heavily as he recalled the battle at the Tianyun villa. A ripple surfaced in his eyes, which had been bloodied for many years. His heart was filled with endless self-blame and guilt. If it were not for him back then, that girl would not have ended up in such a miserable state. When he thought of the Du Yi sect in Suzhou, endless murderous intent surged into his head. He clenched his teeth tightly, causing them to emit a creaking sound. Even the night sky before him began to distort due to his rage. Distorted cracks began to spread out. It was a long while before Xiao Yan's emotions slowly calmed down. He deeply inhaled a few mouthfuls of cold air before exhaling deeply. He closed his eyes and recalled. Today, when he learned that Xiao Xian was in charge of the Xiao clan's cabinet, an impulse had emerged in his heart. If he could borrow the foundation of the Xiao clan to take revenge for the little fairy doctor, there was no need for him to wait any longer. Xiao Yan's heart was filled with impatience when he thought of being able to kill Wu Du, Su Zhen, and the others. Even his breathing had become a little hurried. However, in the end, he violently shook his head and forcefully removed this thought from his heart. The little fairy doctor had died for him. No matter how one put it, Xiao Yan could only personally take revenge for the little fairy doctor. There would also come a day when he would take revenge for all the debts he had with the Du Ai sect. As this thought rose in his mind, Su Zhen's figure slowly flashed in the depths of Xiao Yan's eyes. His hands, which had just relaxed, suddenly clenched into fists again. The next day, the Xiao clan, which had been quiet for a period of time, had once again become lively. This was because the geniuses of the Xiao clan, who rarely showed themselves, had gathered together early this morning. Moreover, all of them were heading in the same direction. Their grand and mighty manner was quite imposing. Even some of the elders in the clan could not help but cast their gazes over. Xiao Yan was flipping through the storage ring that originally belonged to Bai Sheng in a bored manner within the main hall. After searching for a while, even he could not help but complain on behalf of Bai Sheng. Other than a small number of Tier 7 medicinal pills, there was not even a single high-class Qi method or Do technique in the storage ring of this 8-star origin sect. Even the highest-level Do technique was merely at the low E class. Xiao Yan could not even be bothered to take a look at the rest. However, while Xiao Yan was fiddling with the storage ring, a withered wooden cylinder in the storage ring piqued his interest. This was because from what he could see, the material of the withered wooden cylinder was surprisingly the fire banyan tree. The fire banyan tree was unique to the flowing fire plains. Its deterrent force was renowned throughout the entire middle region. What could be so extravagant as to use the fire banyan tree to store it? Xiao Yan took out the wooden cylinder out of curiosity. The moment it entered his hand, a warm feeling was transmitted into his palm. At the same time, Hua Xing, who was seated opposite him, also cast his gaze toward the wooden cylinder in Xiao Yan's hand. He immediately frowned slightly as he swiftly thought of something in his mind. Xiao Yan also sized up the wooden cylinder at this moment. After confirming that there were no restrictions on it, he carefully opened the cover on the side of the wooden cylinder. A wave of heat surged out the moment the cover was opened. Xiao Yan tilted his head slightly and looked at the interior of the wooden cylinder. Upon closer inspection, it appeared to be a scroll. When Xiao Yan took it out, the golden words on it immediately caused his eyes to brighten. Earth Spirit Quenching Flame Pill. The instant Xiao Yan's gaze landed on the scroll, Huaxing seemed to have thought of something and suddenly opened his mouth. Do you recognize this thing? Seeing Huaxing call out the pill formula at a glance, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows slightly. He then weighed the scroll in his hand and asked curiously. Hearing this, Huaxing nodded slightly and continued to speak. This pill formula was created by the ancestors of my Fire Banyan tribe. However, it was lost many years ago. I didn't expect to have the opportunity to see it today. Surprise surfaced on Xiao Yan's face when he heard these words. He did not hesitate as he placed the scroll back into the wooden cylinder. He gently raised his hand and handed it over to Huaxing under the support of an invisible force. He smiled and said, Brother Huaxing, since this pill formula is a relic of the Fire Banyan tribe and I have coincidentally met you, it can be considered as returning to its original owner. However, in this regard, Huaxing shook his head with a smile and pushed it back. He shrugged helplessly and said, Don't worry. You're more suitable. I'm not an alchemist. If this pill formula falls into my hands, it'll only be a useless scroll. If you really want to return it, why don't you wait until you've refined the pills on the scroll and give me a few? It'll be more worth it. Ha ha ha. Hearing these words, the three of them couldn't help but laugh. Huaxing's plan was more practical and impressive than obtaining a pill formula. At this moment, before the laughter of the three people in the hall faded, Huaxing hurriedly ran in with a flustered expression. The laughter of the three people in the hall also came to an abrupt stop. Senior Xiao Yan, it's not good. There are so many people who suddenly barged in from outside. The young girl's exclamation sounded. Xiao Yan and the other two's expressions changed slightly. The former frowned and looked at Bai Hua as he asked in a deep voice. Could it be Xiao Dingtian? As his voice fell, a series of footsteps sounded from outside the door. After that, a familiar clear laughter sounded from the courtyard. Haha, cousin Xiao Yan, why didn't you inform us that you were coming back? For the past 2 years, we have been hoping that you would return as soon as possible. As the laughter was transmitted, a group of familiar figures quickly appeared in front of the door of the living room. Xiao Yan was also slightly startled when he saw the lineup in front of him. A warm smile immediately surged onto his face as he said, So it's you guys. At this moment, this group of people who had come to Xiao Yan's door were the members of the younger generation who had come into contact with Xiao Yan back in the Xiao clan. With Xiao Jun at the lead, Xiao Lei, Xiao Zhuobin, and the others were all present. Even Xiao Tian, who had always been at odds with Xiao Yan, had appeared. Chapter 15-20. Everyone was seated in the living room. Xiao Yan smiled as he looked at the people present. A look of admiration surged into his eyes. Everyone's cultivation had increased significantly after the clan's sacrifice. Xiao Lei and Xiao Zhuobin had already stepped into the 7-star source ancestor realm, and even Xiao Feng had reached the early 7-star source ancestor realm. Xiao Siyu had reached the 8-star source ancestor realm, and the strongest person present, Xiao Jun, was approaching the peak of the late 9-star source ancestor realm. Xiao Yan believed that he would be able to take that step in less than 3 years and become a source venerate. As for the person whose cultivation had increased the most amongst everyone present. My old man said yesterday that my strength had increased by quite a bit. Do you want to have a go with me? You weren't around for the past 2 years, so there wasn't anyone in the clan who could fight with me. Xiao Ling sat on a chair, her jade-like hands cupping her delicate cheeks as she stared at Xiao Yan with a hopeful expression. Xiao Yan smiled embarrassedly, then shook his head with a bitter smile. This girl's temperament was indeed a little wild, but her cultivation talent could be described as terrifying. In a short 2 years, even if it was because of the clan's sacrifice, this girl's cultivation had jumped from the 2-star source ancestor realm to the 6-star source ancestor realm, an increase of 4 stars. From a certain point of view, such a terrifying increase was even faster than him relying on devouring heavenly flames to increase his cultivation. Don't underestimate this girl. Ever since the clan's sacrifice, She has caused quite a bit of trouble for us. All of us here have been beaten up by her twice. Hee hee, you met Xiao Yang on your way back, right? With that guy's current strength, even we have to retreat a little if he goes all out. However, in this girl's hands, we don't even have the chance to retaliate. Seeing Xiao Linger's eager appearance, Xiao Lei and the others looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Ever since Xiao Linger was defeated by Xiao Yang during the clan gathering, every time the young girl's cultivation improved, she would take the initiative to challenge them. However, as long as she was defeated, the young girl's depressed mood would immediately change direction and she would direct her rage towards them. With this girl's status in the clan, aside from Xiao Xiaojun, Xiao Feng, and Xiao Xiaojun, the others could only be bullied by her. Half a year ago, she had entered a 6-star source sect and was under the personal control of the Great Elder. Only then did she become much more well-behaved. Xiao Yan couldn't help but be speechless when he heard this. He looked at Xiao Linger who was opposite him and pointed her nose at Xiao Lei and the others with a proud expression. She lightly raised her jade finger and a thin ribbon flew up, twisting like a spirit snake. Xiao Yan instantly went silent when he saw this. Xiao Xiaojun smiled and glanced at Huarong and Huarong who were seated beside Xiao Yan. A bright light flashed in the depths of his eyes as he slowly said, "Compared to us staying within the clan, I think that cousin brother Xiao Yan's trip can be considered to have gained a lot. Let's not talk about the 2 additional companions. Your cultivation seems to have reached that of a 7-star source, right?" The expressions of everyone present instantly changed when these words were spoken, and when they saw Xiao Yan nod his head in confirmation, their eyes revealed astonishment. Probably. Intermediate 7-star source sect. Whoosh. Everyone present instantly went into an uproar when these words were spoken. Xiao Lei and the others had expressions as if they were looking at a monster. It was very difficult to imagine exactly what Xiao Yan had encountered in the past 2 years to actually be able to raise his cultivation so quickly. After all, even Xiao Xiaojun, a publicly acknowledged genius of the Xiao clan, had similarly relied on the power of the clan's sacrifice to raise his strength to the peak of the source sect in 2 years. However, Xiao Yan's results were something that no one dared to imagine. Hee hee, come. Let's fight. Let's fight. At this moment, Xiao Linger was probably the only person in the hall who was still in high spirits after learning that Xiao Yan's cultivation had increased. The excitement in the little girl's eyes grew even denser. Her delicate figure jumped down from the chair and charged towards Xiao Yan. Fortunately, Xiao Xiaojun who was behind her had sharp eyes and nimble hands. He grabbed the ribbon around the young girl's body and pulled her back. At the same time, he lightly patted her head and reprimanded in a soft voice. "Little girl, you only know how to fight all day long. Behave yourself." After speaking, he immediately threw the young girl out of the hall under everyone's stunned gazes. No matter how furious her face was, there was nothing she could do. Without the young miss in the hall, the atmosphere naturally became much quieter. After chatting with a few people, Xiao Yan also learned that Xiao Ming had left the clan. However, according to Xiao Xiaojun, there were only a few people in the clan who knew the details. In addition, the final result of the battle between Xiao Etian and Ouyang Yu more than a year ago was that Ouyang Yu had returned to the clan. In that battle, he had lost both of his arms. However, Xiao Etian's whereabouts were unknown. The upper echelons of the clan also did not give any relevant answers. Everyone sat and chatted for a long time. After they left, the huge courtyard once again became empty and quiet. After chatting for a while, Xiao Yan learned about many changes in the Xiao clan in recent years. He also learned some secrets about the central region. If this information was spread to the outside world, there would definitely be very few people who knew about it. Only in this huge clan could one know a little about it. When he thought about how the central region, which seemed peaceful on the surface, was actually filled with fierce undercurrents and unforeseen events, Xiao Yan's heart could not help but be slightly agitated. If he wanted to establish a foothold in the central region in the future, he probably could no longer rely on his own strength. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Ever since the news of Xiao Yan's return to the Xiao clan spread, the inner sect elders, who usually held high positions, rushed to Xiao Yan's courtyard one after another in the following days. In particular, those who knew that Xiao Xiaojun and the others had gathered to visit Xiao Yan came in an endless stream to befriend them. Other than a portion that could be easily dismissed, the remaining few old antiques, even Xiao Xiaojun, stepped forward to chat with Xiao Yan. It was only when Xiao Xian stepped forward and blocked those fellows behind him that Xiao Yan's subsequent days finally became idle. Usually, he would accompany the two girls and his family to play all over the place.
As he sensed the fresh and elegant atmosphere among the young ladies, he appeared to have become much younger.
In the hall, Xiao Yan slowly withdrew his hand from Bai Hua's wrist. His furrowed brows did not loosen for a long time.
The worry in his heart grew even more grave.
During the many recent investigations, Xiao Yan was able to clearly sense that the black-colored strength within Bai Hua's body might be suppressed by Xiao Xian's formation, but it was ultimately unable to completely seal it. Bai Hua's spiritual essence was still being swallowed by that strength at an extremely slow pace. Even the suppressive effect of the transforming pill ring was becoming increasingly difficult. Chapter 1521. The suppressive effect of the melting pill ring was getting weaker and weaker. To be safe, Xiao Yan had refined some pills during this period. With the help of external forces, it was indeed effective in temporarily guiding the black energy to devour its target.
However, the result of this method was that it directly led to the rapid growth of the black energy.
It was not difficult to imagine how miserable the result would be if one consumed pills to suppress it for a long period of time. Faced with such a frightening potential danger, Bai Hua merely smiled. Back then, he did not expect that a useless medicinal pill would actually evolve into such a state.
However, during these 2 years, he had gradually gotten used to this kind of feeling.
Although this caused him to be unable to train for a long time, at the very least, the current him would no longer cause any trouble for Xiao Yan. Currently, the only thing that could cause him to be reluctant to part with it was that stupid girl who liked to pester him. Looking at Xiao Yan, who had an ugly expression on his face, Bai Hua withdrew her thoughts and slowly stood up. She patted the former's shoulder and sighed deeply, saying, "Don't worry. It's not the first day or two. She won't die for the time being." Hearing this, Xiao Yan paused for a moment. Immediately, his attitude changed as he laughed.
He curled his mouth and said, "Don't worry.
With me here, I will definitely not let anything happen to you." After his voice faded, Xiao Yan said a few more words to Bai Hua. Then, he left the courtyard and entered the hidden sky pavilion after a round of turnover. Now that things had developed to this point, Xiao Yan was unable to do anything to the black strength by relying on his own tactics. All he could do now was to gamble within the inner sky pavilion, and hope that the rich collection of the Xiao clan would be able to find something that he needed. Unfortunately, the situation in Bai Hua's body was unusual. After a round of searching, even with the rich collection of the Xiao clan, he still could not find any specific useful information.
Now, it seemed that he could only bet all his hopes on the heaven-questioning pill.
At the back mountain of the Xiao clan. At this moment, it had been almost 3 months since Xiao Yan had returned to the clan. Ever since the matter with Bai Hua had been fruitless, Xiao Yan had decisively invested all of his time into training. As a result, his strength after his breakthrough was consolidated. Xiao Yan sat on the cliff and sensed the surging energy flowing through the veins within his body. He involuntarily recalled the battle with Bai Rong's group back then. At that time, he had been imprisoned and was in a passive position. Even with the help of a secret technique, he was only able to barely block the other party's attacks.
If one were to carefully consider it, with his current strength, he could reach the level of a 9-star Sorsong after using the secret technique.
If one were to include the 6 heavenly flames in his hand and the angry Buddha lotus flame that he unleashed with all his strength, Xiao Yan was confident that no one below the level of a Yuan Zun would be able to survive. Phew! Xiao Yan exhaled a long breath after thinking about it in his heart. His body trembled slightly. When he stood up, a green-clothed figure swiftly shot over from the sky above the sea of trees in front of him. After which, the figure stood in the empty space opposite of Xiao Yan. "Ancestor, why have you come?" Ever since he had returned to the Xiao clan, Xiao Xian had been dealing with matters related to the Zhao clan. Hence, the two of them rarely met. Whenever Xiao Xian appeared, he would basically help Xiao Yan block some trouble. However, looking at his smiling appearance today, it didn't seem like it. "I'm here to inform you of a piece of news."
"No, you can't do that, Great Elder."
At the same time, somewhere in the back mountain of the Xiao clan, Xiao Dingtian shouted in an extremely agitated tone. His expression was rather gloomy. Even if he has returned to the clan and the Xiao clan acknowledges his existence, how can the clan's rules be changed because of him? Xiao Zhen narrowed his old eyes and stared at Xiao Dingtian before him. "But this is what he deserves. Back then you guys kept pushing him. The patriarch and I gave in time and time again because of your many years of contributions to the family. That's what led to this outcome. In the end we owe him this. Xiao Zhan gritted his teeth with an ugly expression. He pondered for a moment before speaking again. No matter what, according to the clan's rules, the ancestral hall will only be opened once every 20 years. If it is opened earlier, the sacred blood crystal will definitely be affected. That is the foundation of the Xiao clan. Fool. The continuation of the clan depends on the people. Although the sacred blood crystal is precious, it still contains the bloodline of a human. If we can use it to strengthen the Xiao clan, it will be a good use. Otherwise, what's the point of its existence? Xiao Zhan raised his eyebrows, and there was a hint of disappointment in his eyes. Even until now, Xiao Dingtian was still so pedantic. When Xiao Dingtian heard these words, he became silent for a moment. He hesitated for a moment before he raised his head and spoke to Xiao Zhan with determination. But this matter is related to the clan's reputation. He has just returned. He has no aptitude and no achievements. We can't possibly pull down the entire clan's reputation just for him, right? If we can't even keep our own family members, what's the use of our reputation? Xiao Zhan rebuked angrily. His domineering attitude made Xiao Dingtian lower his head with a gloomy expression. Xiao Zhan then slowly exhaled and said, "In addition, according to special permission, Xiao Yang and Xiao Yan will participate in the clan sacrifice together." Xiao Yang? That fellow. This is the ancestors' decision. We only need to follow it. Xiao Dingtian was about to refute, but Xiao Zhan mentioned the ancestor. Xiao Dingtian immediately became dejected. On the other side. Clan sacrifice? Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Xiao Yan was a little surprised. He knew quite a bit about the clan sacrifice back then. Naturally, he knew that according to the normal clan rules, the clan sacrifice would only be held once every 20 years. Other than the time for the younger generation to grow, the energy needed to complete the clan sacrifice would also slowly recover during this period of time. However, Xiao Yan didn't expect the Xiao clan's upper echelons to make such a decision. In less than 2 years, they were going to hold another clan sacrifice for him. It's not just for you. Xiao Yang will be participating with you this time. Hearing this, Xiao Yan was a little surprised for a moment. Then, he suddenly understood and nodded. That was true. After all, that fellow's perseverance was seen by everyone. Now that the clan allowed him to participate in the clan sacrifice, it could be considered as compensation for neglecting him for so many years. If that's the case, when will the clan sacrifice be held this time? Withdrawing his thoughts, Xiao Yan's eyes were filled with a fiery passion as he asked in doubt. Xiao Xian smiled at Xiao Yan and said, "If you are willing, you can do it any time. I'm afraid I can't do it now." However, just as he finished speaking, a figure quickly appeared in the void not far away from him. The person was wearing a luxurious robe. It was the clan leader, Xiao Yuheng. Hearing the former's words, Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian looked at each other. Then, their gazes fell on Xiao Yuheng. Xiao Yuheng frowned and sighed. He took a deep look at Xiao Yan before shifting his gaze to Xiao Xian and slowly said, "The Bai clan has come." Someone from the Bai clan has come and requested for Xiao Yan to be handed over. Chapter 1522. Bai clan. Xiao Yan and Xiao Xian were stunned when they heard Xiao Yuheng's words. Soon after, a cold glint flashed across their eyes. Xiao Yuheng nodded slightly and said softly, "There are a lot of people here." And there are quite a lot of people here. Even the head of the Bai family is here. Things are getting a little tricky. What about the father of the 2 brothers? Looks like Bai Zijing has not given up. He has even brought along the head of the clan. He wants you to pay with your life for his sons. Xiao Xian was expressionless. However, there was a sharp sword aura gathering in his eyes. Xiao Yan smiled. His finger gently flicked his sleeves as he coldly said, "Let's go." "You want to go? They are here for you. As long as you don't show up, even the Bai clan can't barge into our Xiao clan. However, if you go..." "Haha, clan head, since they have come knocking on our door, there is no reason to avoid them. If I really do that, won't it show that our Xiao clan is at a disadvantage? If they want to take my life, they should see if they have the ability to do so." After he spoke, he took the lead and flew toward the entrance of the Xiao clan. Behind him, Xiao Yuheng frowned and looked at Xiao Xian. When he saw the latter's calm face, he withdrew the worry on his face and quickly followed. Halfway through, A group of people quickly flew in front of Xiao Yan. At a closer look, it was Xiao Jun and the other younger generation of the Xiao clan. When he saw them, Xiao Yan was slightly stunned and asked doubtfully, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" "Haha, we have heard about the matter. The Bai clan wants to touch the people of our Xiao clan. They should be clear about whose territory this is. With us around, they will not be able to touch a single hair on your head." Xiao Jun laughed out loud in a forthright manner. The group of people behind him immediately responded in unison. That kind of aggressive manner appeared a little overbearing. Xiao Yan's heart moved slightly when he saw this. He ceased being courteous. With a wave of his large hand, he decisively led these people and hurried to Xiao City. At the same time, two groups of people stood in the sky above Xiao City. One group was led by the sixth elder of the Xiao clan, Xiao Yuehua, while the other group was led by a middle-aged man in a brocade robe. Behind him was a group of nearly 100 people. Everyone stood in a forest, and their imposing aura filled the sky above Xiao City, causing many people in the city to have a slight change in expression. Looking at the posture of these people, one could tell at a glance that they were not ordinary people. To be able to appear in the Xiao clan region with such fanfare, they most likely did not come with good intentions. These people seem to be from the Bai clan. The young man beside the leader seems to be the eldest son of the Bai clan, Bai Zijing. Humph, how ignorant. Bai Zijing travels the continent and knows a lot of people, but the person in front of him is the real elder. Bai Zijing's father is also the patriarch of the Bai clan, Bai Haotong. He's a source venerate. Source venerate? Such an elite has personally appeared in the Xiao clan. What is he trying to do? I heard that Bai Zijing brought a group of people into the fire banyan relic some time ago, but he was the only one who came out alive. Now, it seems that he has some connections with the Xiao clan. While everyone in the city below was whispering, Bai Haotong, who was in the sky, swept his cold gaze across the group of elders of the Xiao clan. Finally, his gaze stopped on Xiao Yuehua. A rather oppressive aura spread out in front of her. Soon after he said in a deep voice, "I don't have much patience. Are you going to hand over the person I want or not?" Facing Bai Haotong's oppressive aura, Xiao Yuehua raised her eyebrows and snorted coldly. She took a step forward, and an invisible ripple spread out in an instant, dispersing the pressure. She coldly said, "Patriarch Bai, I don't care if what you said is true or false. You came to the Xiao clan just because something happened to your Bai clan. What kind of place do you think the Xiao clan is?" "Xiao Yuehua, I don't want to make things difficult for the Xiao clan, but my son died at Xiao Yan's hands, and I will personally take revenge. As long as you hand over Xiao Yan, I will leave with my men." Bai Haotong coldly stared at the woman opposite him. His chilling words caused the woman to snort coldly. "I said earlier that Xiao Yan left the Xiao clan 2 years ago. If you want to find him, go somewhere else. The Xiao clan doesn't have the person you want." Once she finished speaking, Xiao Yuehua waved her sleeve. She turned around and shouted coldly, "Send the guest off." These words caused Bai Haotong's expression to darken. His venomous gaze stared at Xiao Yuehua's figure as she turned around. Anger immediately surged in his heart as he flicked his wrist under his sleeve. Genesis Chi gathered in his palm as his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. "You don't want to hand him over?" Soon after, a furious cry was heard from behind Xiao Yuehua. The elders of the Xiao clan, who were facing Bai Haotong, fell into the city due to the latter's powerful charge. They charged towards Xiao Yuehua like a hot knife through butter. "Bai Haotong, don't you dare! This is the Xiao clan." Xiao Yuehua was enraged by Bai Haotong's ferocious attitude. She fiercely waved her hand, and a whip appeared in her hand. Genesis Chi shot out to meet Bai Haotong's attack. "Xiao Yan killed my son and elders of my clan. If you don't hand him over today, no one will be able to live in peace." Thud. Xiao Yuehua was instantly pushed back. Bai Haotong was a 7-star origin venerate, and there were very few people of the same cultivation level who could match him. It was indeed a little difficult for Xiao Yuehua, who was only a 3-star origin venerate. After a few exchanges, Xiao Yuehua was no match for Bai Haotong. She was blasted back by a single attack, causing the qi and blood in her body to churn violently. Bai Haotong seemed to have grasped this opportunity. His hand transformed into a claw as Genesis Chi gushed out and viciously slashed at Xiao Yuehua's chest. Clang! The cry of a diamond rang out,
and piercingly cold sword chi immediately surged to the sides, blocking the Shao clan members behind it like an invisible curtain. Bai Hao Tong quickly retreated, and his expression darkened as he looked towards a certain spot in the air. A figure in an azure robe had appeared. It was Xiao Xian, who had arrived just in time. What domineering sword chi! Bai Hao Tong looked at the sword scar on his palm as amazement surged in his heart. Although the person before him was far inferior to him in terms of cultivation, the sword aura that covered his body was something that even the person from the Ouyang clan could not compare to. When did such a person appear in the Shao clan? Just as he was secretly bewildered, Bai Zijing quickly flew forward and whispered into his ear. Immediately after, a ferocious expression appeared on his face. He suddenly raised his gaze, and the killing intent in his eyes gradually grew stronger as he looked at Xiao Xian, who was protecting Xiao Yuehua, and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Xian, Xiao Yuehua. Is it you who killed Bai Rong?" Chapter 1523. The word harm isn't appropriate. Bai Rong is the harm, and I only counterattacked. Xiao Xian said as he looked at Bai Hao Tong with a smile. So you're admitting it? Bai Hao Tong's face grew increasingly dark as he stared at Xiao Xian. The Genesis chi in his body was on the verge of erupting. I see that you don't intend to deny the fact that you attacked first. Xiao Xian mocked with a smile. Bai Hao Tong's face twitched slightly, and he immediately snorted coldly. His figure abruptly shot towards Xiao Xian. The space in front of Xiao Xian rapidly distorted, and a palm met Bai Hao Tong's attack. When the two attacks collided, Bai Hao Tong retreated with a grave expression, and Xiao Yuhing's figure appeared in the sky above Xiao City. Hua! Seeing this scene in the sky, an uproar immediately sounded in the city. In just a moment, several big shots that were rarely seen on normal days had appeared in the sky above Xiao City. It was really surprising. Haha, we haven't seen each other for many years. Why is Patriarch Bai so angry when we meet? Xiao Yuhing withdrew his hand and looked at the person opposite him with a smile. His eyes were rather calm. Humph, less nonsense. Xiao Yuhing, you have also heard it just now. This thief has personally admitted that he killed Bai Rong. Even my son has died in Xiao Yan's hands. Today, no matter how you quibble, you must hand these two people over. Bai Hao Tong's gaze swept past Xiao Yuhing and stared at Xiao Xian behind him. Xiao Xian frowned slightly, and after pondering for a moment he said, Patriarch Bai, although I don't know the ins and outs of this matter, I know one thing. The central region is vast, and it is inevitable that clansmen will be injured when they go out. If you want the head of the Shao clan's inner pavilion to pay for the life of an elder of your Bai clan because of a few words from you, isn't that too much? Bai Hao Tong's expression immediately changed when he heard those words. His mind became slightly solemn. He did not know that the person behind Xiao Yuhing actually had such an identity. As the clan leader of the Bai clan, he naturally knew some information about the Shao clan. Being in charge of the inner cabinet, his status was not much lower than the clan leaders. If anyone wanted to touch him, the entire Shao clan would not let the matter rest. After hesitating for a long time, Bai Hao Tong could only gnash his teeth and turn his gaze towards Xiao Yan. I can treat the matter of Bai Rong as a result of him not being as skilled as others. However, you must hand Xiao Yan over. Only by doing so will there be some leeway for today's matter to be resolved. Otherwise, do not blame me for not thinking about the friendship of our clan. Many of the Shao clan's older generation members couldn't help but change their expressions. Bai Hao Tong's threat was very strong. What he meant was that the Shao clan had to make a choice between handing over Xiao Yan and starting a war with the Bai clan. Once the Shao clan chose to forcefully protect Xiao Yan, it would be difficult for the two clans to get along in the future. Humph, does Patriarch Bai think that there is no one in the Shao clan who can match up to him? Xiao Yuhing sneered. As his figure flashed, Xiao Xian and Xiao Yuehua appeared at his sides. The three of them stood in a row in front of Bai Hao Tong. At the same time, two gray-robed elders from the Bai clan frowned slightly and appeared beside Bai Hao Tong. Immediately, the 6 source venerables faced each other in the air. Haha, father's words couldn't be more correct. Just as everyone's expressions changed, a group of Shao clan's juniors flew over from afar. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of everyone. Bai Zijing and the others' gazes immediately fell on the two people leading the group. It was Xiao Yan and Xiao Xiaojun. Xiao Xiaojun's gaze swept across the Bai clan's members calmly. Finally, his gaze landed on Bai Hao Tong as he slowly said,
Patriarch Bai, although the Shao clan has been quiet in recent years, it has not reached the point where we can be trampled on by others. If you think that the Shao clan is easy to bully, then go ahead and start a war. However, if you want to beat someone up in front of their home and demand an apology, you should ask them if they agree. Xiao Jun let out a loud cry at the end of his words. He waved his hand and angrily pointed at the members of the Shao clan behind him. Immediately, all the members of the younger generation behind Xiao Yan suddenly let out an explosive cry. A majestic aura suddenly shot to the sky as they stepped forward. This unyielding attitude caused the surrounding experts of the older generation to become excited. This matter concerned the dignity of their clans, so they would naturally not hesitate. Immediately, they looked at each other and saw a wisp of burning desire in each other's eyes. Soon after, accompanied by a roar, all the Shao clan's experts stirred the Genesis Chi in their bodies. Pillars of energy soared into the sky as mottled colors converged. Everyone's aura and pressure twisted together, like an invisible giant beast occupying the sky above Shao City. The terrifying power made everyone's expression change. Even Bai Haotong and the others, who were hovering in the sky, wore grave expressions. Although the Bai clan and the Shao clan were on par with each other in the middle region, only they knew the true strength of the two clans. Once the Bai clan declared war with the Shao clan because of this matter, the Bai clan would suffer a great loss regardless of the outcome. At that time, it was likely that others would be able to reap the benefits. At the same time, Xiao Yan lifted his head to look at the powerful pressure in the sky, and the pressure in his heart lessened significantly. It was only at this moment that he truly felt that he was a member of the Shao clan. Seeing that the Shao clan's experts had made their stance clear, the Bai clan's members were in a dilemma. Bai Haotong's face alternated between green and white. His gaze swept back and forth between Xiao Yan and the three people opposite him as thoughts spun rapidly in his mind. At this moment, Xiao Yan was already within reach. If he could instantly attack and kill Xiao Yan, the Shao clan would not easily start a war with the Bai clan over a dead person regardless of how furious they were once Xiao Yan died. However, Xiao Yuhing's group on the other side was currently a problem. Even with his cultivation, it was impossible for him to kill Xiao Yan before they could intercept him. In this way, the current situation had become a deadlock. A moment later, while both parties were in a deadlock, Bai Zijing, who had been staring intently at Xiao Yan, finally stepped forward and stood between Bai Haotong and the Shao clan. His eyes, which were filled with murderous intent, had never left Xiao Yan. Xiao Yan, since we can't kill you in the grand scheme of things, let us settle this ourselves. A ferocious smile surged onto Bai Zijing's face. His eyes glanced at Shao City below. After seeing the hopeful eyes of the city, a dark and cold cry suddenly resounded in the sky above the city. Xiao Yan from the Shao clan, you killed my brother and killed an elder of my clan. Today, I, Bai Zijing, as the young clan leader of the Bai clan, will have a decisive battle with you. Do you dare to accept the challenge? An uproar immediately arose in the city below when these words were spoken. At the same time, the expressions of the experts from both parties in the sky changed. Even Xiao Yan himself couldn't help but be a little stunned at this moment. His eyes exchanged glances with Xiao Jun, who had a strange expression on his face. Subsequently, he looked at Bai Zijing opposite him and curled his lips. You have invited me to a battle in public. If I don't accept, I'm afraid that I will embarrass the Shao clan in front of everyone. Since this is the case, your challenge, I accept. P.S. The update will begin at 11 a.m. tomorrow. 2 chapters will be updated normally, and 10 chapters will be supplemented. A total of 12 chapters will be updated every half an hour and will end at 4:30 p.m. Reader group here. 4766686761. Chapter 1524. The ferocious smile on Bai Zijing's face became even denser as he watched Xiao Yan calmly accept the challenge. His eyes immediately turned around and looked at Bai Haotong by the side with a confident face. At this moment, the latter's eyes also contained some surprise as he looked at Xiao Yan. With his strength, he was naturally able to tell that Xiao Yan in front of him possessed the cultivation of a 7-star origin sect. Such a strength was something that very few people of the same generation could compare with. A thought flashed across Bai Haotong's mind as he coldly glanced at Xiao Yan. He then waved his sleeve and gestured for the 2 people beside him to back away, leaving the space in front of them to Bai Zijing. At the same time, Xiao Yan also slowly stepped forward. Behind him, Xiao Jun and the rest looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with ridicule when they looked at Bai Zijing.
Let's back off as well.
Xiao Xian smiled as he spoke. He nodded with Xiao Yuheng by the side and withdrew. Only Xiao Yuehua frowned slightly. Her eyes revealed a worried expression. Although she had heard of some of Xiao Yan's battle results, Bai Zijing from the Bai clan's current cultivation was also a little strange.
However, he still clenched his teeth and withdrew after seeing the two people beside him withdraw.
Xiao Yuehua's expression changed slightly. A mocking smile appeared on the faces of the Bai clan's experts when they saw that the Xiao clan had indeed given up the battlefield. They were naturally well aware of Bai Zijing's battle strength. Among the younger generation of the three great clans, only the Xiao clan's young master Xiao could match up to him. Now that Xiao Yan had accepted the challenge, it was no different from seeking death. Bai Haotong narrowed his eyes as he stared intently at Xiao Yan. Although he was a little surprised by the actions of the members of the Xiao clan, it was impossible for him to misjudge Xiao Yan's cultivation of a 7-star source sect. In my opinion, why don't we just leave it at that? While Xiao Yan and Bai Zijing were facing off, Bai Haotong's eyes rotated as he suddenly spoke. Everyone's gazes instantly gathered on him. Since this is a decisive battle, the result of this battle will be life and death. The experts from both sides will not interfere. After this battle, the grudges between my son and I will be written off. The members of the Xiao clan looked at each other in dismay. Many strange gazes were directed at the members of the Bai clan. Xiao Yuheng opened his mouth slightly, sighed softly, and replied coldly, "That's right. Since you insist, then do as you please." Bai Haotong and Bai Zijing looked at each other. They both saw coldness in each other's eyes. The latter turned around and looked at Xiao Yan again. Killing intent surged in his eyes. "Xiao Yan, you've been lucky enough to survive time and time again. Today, I'd like to see who can save you." With regards to this, Xiao Yan did not comment.
He waved his hand fiercely and the huge dark heavy buster sword landed in his hand.
The tip of the buster sword rotated slightly and the raging flames immediately climbed up. From the looks of it, the Bai clan was clearly determined to kill him. Since that was the case, there was naturally no need to hold back. Everything would be settled as quickly as possible. Bai Zijing involuntarily let out a laugh when he saw Xiao Yan take out a weapon without any hesitation. He recalled how Xiao Yan had been chased by him like a dog that had lost its home in the fire banyan forest back then. Xiao Yan had been chased by him until he did not have the ability to retaliate. In the end, Xiao Yan had merely relied on a couple of tricks to escape.
Now that the two of them were facing each other head-on, Bai Zijing's heart was completely confident that he could kill the latter.
With a flip of his wrist, a blue longbow immediately appeared in his hand. As he swung it, Genesis Chi surged through the meridians in his body, and a tyrannical pressure swiftly unfurled from Bai Zijing's body. Bas! Xiao Yan, along with Xiao Xiaojun and the others behind him, raised their eyebrows when they sensed this aura. Their eyes contained surprise as they looked at Bai Zijing. 9-star origin sect? Xiao Yan raised his brows. Soon after, his expression turned into an icy smile. No wonder Bai Zijing had challenged him in public. It turns out that Bai Zijing had encountered some miraculous encounters in less than half a year.
Even though this was the case, the expressions of the members of the Xiao clan behind did not stir much of a ripple.
The strength of the 9-star origin zone might be quite strong, but they might not be optimistic about a variable like Xiao Yan. After all, even members of the Xiao clan like them were unable to see Xiao Yan's true fighting strength. If the two of them were to really fight, Bai Zijing's chances of victory might not even reach 50%. While Xiao Yan and Bai Zijing were locked in a stalemate in the sky, a wave of noise soared into the sky from the city below. The name of the Bai clan's Bai Zijing could be considered one of the top members of the younger generation in the middle region. This was especially the case within the three large clans. There were naturally many people who understood him. Hence, when everyone saw that Bai Zijing had bumped into Xiao Yan, many sighs were emitted from their mouths. Their eyes involuntarily contained an additional regret when they looked at Xiao Yan. Bai Zijing drew his bow and knocked an arrow. As his Genesis Chi gathered, an icy chuckle was spat out. "You didn't expect this, did you? You stole my Limestone Valley's blessing, but still failed to surpass me. Back then, you were like a stray dog in my hands. Even now, this fact has not changed." Noisy! Xiao Yan let out a cold snort when he heard this. His feet suddenly stomped on empty air and a frightening strength shattered the empty air. His body used this to shoot forward.
In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of Bai Zijing.
The arrow that the latter had shot out was shattered by Xiao Yan's strength. At the same time that Bai Zijing's body flew back, he used the longbow in his hand to hack at Xiao Yan's head. However, it was violently shaken by the enormous ruler in Xiao Yan's hand. A frightening large force immediately attacked. The web between the thumb and index finger of Bai Zijing's left hand, which was holding the bow, immediately cracked. Even his entire arm swiftly became numb.
What astonishing strength!
With an ugly expression, Bai Zijing mobilized his Genesis Chi to quickly break the force invading his body. When he lifted his head, Xiao Yan's figure had already disappeared like a ghost.
He disappeared? The expressions of quite a number of people present involuntarily changed when they saw Xiao Yan's body disappear in such a strange manner.
Immediately, numerous gazes that were filled with surprise began to patrol all over the place.
I caught you.
But in the next moment, Bai Zijing's gaze rapidly swept around.
Soon after, he curled his lips and let out a disdainful snort.
He drew his bow to a full crescent and unhesitatingly shot an arrow at a certain spot behind him.
Parting arrow.
Chi! Just as Bai Zijing's arrow shot toward the void, 3 balls of flame suddenly appeared in the originally calm void. A terrifying aura also rose abruptly. Immediately after, a palm pierced through the void and pierced through the 3 balls of flames.
The moment it clenched its fist, a shocking aura that was not inferior to the former erupted without reservation.
Chapter 1525. A shocking force erupted.
The arrow that was shot toward Xiao Yan's face was also shattered by the might of a punch from Xiao Yan, who had revealed himself soon after.
Break! Xiao Yan's fist, which was covered by a flame, shattered the arrow that was shot over. He slowly raised his eyes and his cold and stern gaze looked directly at Bai Zijing on the opposite side.
His body shook gently and a circular flame ripple immediately swept over the sky.
The expressions of those who sensed this chi changed.
9-star source sect.
Shock filled the eyes of the Bai clan experts when they sensed the sudden surge of aura from Xiao Yan's body.
Patriarch, this isn't good.
Shut up! An elder beside Bai Haotong frowned deeply when the former interrupted him. His calm gaze paused on Xiao Yan and Bai Zijing for a brief moment before he took in a deep breath and slowly said, "I never expected this kid to have such a trump card."
I really never imagined that this kid actually possessed such a trump card and relied on a secret technique to actually forcefully close the gap in cultivation between him and Zijing.
But it's still early, and based on his appearance, he ought to have expected this since long ago, so there's nothing to make a fuss about.
Is it another secret technique? Bai Zijing sneered and shook his head.
You want to end this quickly? That's good too. My hatred for you has already reached the point where I hate you.
A sinister look flashed in Bai Zijing's eyes.
He took in a deep breath as his hands rapidly formed a series of seals. As the seals in Bai Zijing's hands changed, waves of majestic dark blue Genesis Chi continuously gushed out from his body, transforming into a giant waterspout around him.
An astonishing suction force rapidly extended from within, and the energy of the universe frantically rushed towards Bai Zijing's body under the suction force.
Xiao Yan, be careful. This guy has some tricks up his sleeve. Once he uses it, he will be able to forcefully absorb the surrounding energy for a short period of time, raising his strength by around 1 star. When Xiao Jun, who was not far behind, saw Bai Zijing's attitude, the expression on his face changed slightly.
His anxious reminder had just sounded when Bai Zijing emitted a ferocious voice that caused the heavens and the earth to tremble.
Xiao Yan, I will make you pay a painful price for everything you've done today.
As the Genesis Chi in his body swiftly soared, a savage smile involuntarily surfaced from the corner of Bai Zijing's mouth.
After using the secret technique, his strength had already reached the peak of the Origin Zone level. There was basically no one below the Origin Venerate level who was a match for him.
Xiao Yan was no exception.
Kill! A low roar that was filled with killing intent was spat out from Bai Zijing's throat. His body suddenly disappeared from the spot. An instant later, the sound of rushing air suddenly exploded beside Xiao Yan's ear. Bai Zijing's whipping leg suddenly appeared beside Xiao Yan's body. Xiao Yan subconsciously extended his hand to block it.
However, other than the firm strength, the natural energy that surged like a tide over the sky violently struck Xiao Yan's body like a sea wave.
Xiao Yan's expression changed.
Bang!
Xiao Yan's body was sent flying 100 feet. When he lifted his head,
Bai Zijing's figure was already charging towards him again.
Clang!
However, this time around, Bai Zijing's heavy punch was forcefully blocked by the giant metal body that Xiao Yan had transformed into with just one palm. The surrounding natural energy that wildly swept over was completely transformed into nothingness under the burning of the heavenly flame. Xiao Yan's sharp gaze stared intently at Bai Zijing in front of him, allowing the storm that was stirred by this attack to wreak havoc in the sky. Even with the help of the secret art, your strength is still that of a 9-star Genesis ancestor. There's nothing to be proud of.
Humph, is that so? Bai Zijing's expression did not change. His fist, which was in close contact with Xiao Yan's hand, shook with great force. His body immediately flashed back. Soon after, his fist turned into a palm. In an instant, the natural energy suddenly rotated and gathered. A wave of frightening energy wave was agglomerated in his palm. Raging waves of the sea. Powerful Genesis chi surged out, turning into an overwhelming wave of energy in the blink of an eye. With a terrifying power that could kill, it viciously blasted toward Xiao Yan. 7-layer Heaven Breaker Ruler. Xiao Yan was completely fearless in the face of Bai Zijing's attack. His golden body dissipated, and he swung the heavy black ruler in his hand. Genesis chi frantically poured out from his body, rapidly withdrawing the flames that covered the giant ruler. Scarlet-red light pulsed from the giant ruler, and the tyrannical flame energy caused the space around Xiao Yan to distort uncontrollably. Such a ferocious aura caused Bai Zijing to be slightly taken aback. For some reason, the heavenly fire aura in Xiao Yan's body seemed to have become much more terrifying than before. However, before he could ponder any further, a majestic ruler light shot out from Xiao Yan's giant ruler. Bang! The powerful ruler light collided with the arrow, and the latter's astonishing power naturally easily neutralized the power of the ruler light. But then, one after another, startling ruler light rapidly shot out in front of Xiao Yan. The giant ruler flipped in the air, and one ruler light after another converged into the first ruler light. When the 9th ruler light shot out, the energy undulations at the point of collision grew increasingly intense, and then... buzz! Amidst a soul-shaking buzzing sound, the astonishing wave in the sky and the ruler light were both annihilated. Terrifying energy ripples suddenly unfurled, and the surrounding space, which had yet to recover, was once again shattered into nothingness. The energy storm swept apart in the sky. The two people in the square also swiftly retreated under the collision of this energy. The remaining ripples in the sky had yet to scatter. However, at this moment, a threatening voice suddenly erupted from Bai Zijing's mouth. Deep Sea Abyss. Monstrous Genesis chi gathered around Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. Bai Zijing rapidly formed a seal with his hands, and the deep blue Genesis chi immediately condensed into water and wrapped around Xiao Yan, forming a giant water ball. As the water ball rapidly shrank, a terrifying oppressive force, as though he was standing in the deep sea, assaulted Xiao Yan's body. Under this powerful pressure, not only space, but even the bones in Xiao Yan's body emitted a low sound of collision. His movements, breathing, and even the flow of Genesis chi in his body were greatly affected at this moment. Ha! An explosive cry was emitted from Xiao Yan's throat. His body shook and a wild bright red flame swiftly surged out of his body. In the blink of an eye, it covered his body and agglomerated into a magma armor. Following the continuous eruption of wave after wave of bright red magma, the vast water region that had agglomerated around his body was forcefully vaporized under the might of the heavenly flame. The instant Xiao Yan raised his head, Bai Zijing pulled his bow and released an arrow. The sound of air being split apart came from the front. Xiao Yan's body hurriedly dodged and narrowly dodged the arrow that was shot toward his face. Even though this was the case, his left shoulder was still shot, leaving behind a soul-sucking arrow wound. Bai Zijing drew his bow again, and a chilling snort slowly sounded. I have to admit that your combat strength is indeed beyond my expectations. However, if it's only at this level, there's no need for this battle to continue. Is that so? Amidst the whistling sound, Xiao Yan casually smashed the arrow to pieces. Just as he sneered, Bai Zijing continued. You want to talk about the fire lotus, right? Elder Rome once specially mentioned to me that once that thing is used, even source venerables will have to face it head-on. Unfortunately, the person you're facing today is me, and you're destined not to have the chance to use it. Puff! As soon as his voice faded, Xiao Yan flicked his finger, and raging flames suddenly rose in the air around him.
6 mysterious fires appeared and circled around his body. At the same time, a heart-trembling temperature suddenly spread out.
Chapter 1526.
After Xiao Yan randomly summoned the heavenly flame, the expressions of the people from the 2 clans present and the countless human traffic within Xiao City suddenly changed. Numerous gazes that were filled with shock gathered on Xiao Yan's body in an orderly manner.
6 heavenly flames?
Bai Hao Tang's eyes suddenly shrank when he saw the heavenly flame. He involuntarily let out an involuntary cry. Although he was already aware that Xiao Yan was in possession of a heavenly flame, he did not expect that Xiao Yan actually possessed 6 types of heavenly flames. Being able to obtain a heavenly flame was already 1 in a million, let alone 6. This was simply unimaginable.
Is he going to use that move?
Xiao Lei and Xiao Zhuobin, who were among the Xiao clan's crowd, looked at each other. They recalled the angry Buddha lotus flame that Xiao Yan had used back then. Their breathing involuntarily turned sluggish. The 2 of them still had some idea of the might of that flame. This fellow has 2 more heavenly flames than when he fought with us back then. Looks like he still held back in that battle. Humph. Stubborn. At the same time, Bai Zijing snorted furiously when he saw Xiao Yan summon the heavenly flames. He raised the longbow in his hand and quickly raised both hands to his chest. Then he changed his hand seals. Immediately, numerous blue tents rapidly appeared in the sky. As his body passed through the water curtain in front of him, numerous clones stepped out from the hundreds of tents in the sky. They held longbows in their hands and pointed sharp arrows at Xiao Yan. Great Dao Technique. 3,000 illusory water. Immediately after, an earth-shaking roar was emitted from Bai Zijing's mouth. All of his clones shot out arrows together with his actual body. A rain of arrows rained down and covered the sky. Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Although the arrows that filled the sky were not terrifying, no one below the Origin Venerate level would dare to underestimate them. Faced with this storm-like attack of Bai Zijing, Xiao Yan did not hesitate at this moment. His hand moved the heavenly flame that was lingering in front of him until the volcano rock flame came to a stop in front of him. His hand rose and fell as his palm heavily slammed onto the flame. A fire glow shot out and numerous magma fire pillars within 100 feet radius of Xiao Yan's body shot to the sky, gathering into a magma firewall that completely blocked the arrow rain that filled the sky. Chi 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 chi. Countless arrows evaporated under the scorching heat of the heavenly fire and turned into a thick white mist. When all the arrows disappeared, a sneer appeared on Bai Zijing's face. With a thought, the nearly 100 incarnations in the sky stood behind him. They knocked their bows and pulled their arrows. The incarnations behind him formed seals with their palms. The white mist that filled the sky seemed to be attracted by something. It quickly gathered between Bai Zijing's 2 palms and the bowstring, condensing into a dark-colored arrow. Waves of astonishing water fluctuations continuously overflowed from it. This arrow, chasing sun. Bai Zijing's icy cold voice was emitted from between his lips. The bowstring was released and the arrow immediately shot out. In the blink of an eye, it strangely disappeared into the empty space in front of him. When it appeared again, it had already arrived in front of the firewall. Only when the 2 made contact did the empty space behind Bai Zijing shatter with a buzzing sound. At the same time, the firewall that reached the sky was also instantly disintegrated under the might of this arrow. As the firewall dissipated, Xiao Yan's face was ice cold. The heavenly flames in front of him stopped rotating, and the scarlet-red flames rose. He grasped the flames in his hand and waved it into the sky. Comic fire spread and transformed into a towering fire avatar in the blink of an eye. Wrath of the Fire God. The angry fist smashed down, and as a burst of energy surged, the 2 were neutralized. Chi! The void quietly distorted, and a figure appeared in front of Bai Zijing like a ghost. His right hand clenched into a fist, and as Genesis Chi poured out, he smashed it directly at Bai Zijing's head. Although Bai Zijing was shocked by Xiao Yan's attack, he was also a valiant general who had experienced many bloody battles. He was far from reaching the stage where he forgot to retaliate. In an instant, he used the great way to agglomerate a defensive technique. Illusion Water Kasaya. I'll let you drink water. However, the cry from Bai Zijing's mouth had just sounded when a thick white flame suddenly surged out from Xiao Yan's fist. Wherever it passed, the water that was agglomerated on the surface of the former's body was instantly frozen into ice. This punch of his also firmly landed on Bai Zijing's face. Bang! With a muffled sound of bones breaking, Bai Zijing's body could not help but fly backward. When his body came to a stop with great difficulty, half of his face was already charred black. His entire face was a little distorted, and his eyes were filled with blood. But even so, Bai Zijing didn't dare to hesitate in the slightest. He clenched his right hand, and as Genesis Chi frantically poured out from his palm, a crystal-like arrow was condensed into a substance, and he ruthlessly thrust it into the void in front of him. The next moment, the empty space swiftly became distorted. Xiao Yan's body paused for an instant and narrowly dodged the arrow that was piercing over. Bai Zijing threw the arrow out and his body quickly pulled back. Xiao Yan flipped his hand and flicked the arrow that was shot over. Bai Zijing smoothly received the arrow that was bounced back. At the same time that his body flipped backward, he lifted his leg and pressed the bow. He pulled the bowstring with one hand and suddenly shot an arrow. Immediately after, it was blocked by Xiao Yan and the distance between the two of them was once again pulled apart. Cough, cough, cough. Bai Zijing couldn't help coughing the moment he stabilized his body. His pale face was filled with anger and resentment. Xiao Yan stood in the void, slowly exhaling. With a wave of his hand, 6 mysterious fires immediately revolved around him, and a chilling light surged in his pitch-black eyes. Xiao Yan, no matter what, I will get rid of you today. Blood Sea Seal. Accompanied by a roar filled with soaring killing intent, Bai Zijing's face rapidly flushed red, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He grasped the seal in his hand and poured all the remaining Genesis Chi in his body into it. Suddenly, a dark red color spread across the void. Bai Zijing is really forced into a corner. I can't believe he's resorting to this move. This Blood Sea Seal is his life-saving move. Back then, even the junior clan leader was almost defeated by him with this move. To think that he would use it to deal with Xiao Yan. This is going to be troublesome. Many members of the Xiao clan, who had some understanding of Bai Zijing's attack, had a change in expression when they saw this scene. Even the upper echelons of both clans locked their eyes on the two people in the arena. With the help of the secret technique, Bai Zijing's natural energy completely merged into the blood seal. The blood color that permeated the air was completely withdrawn. A frightening murderous aura was also emitted from the blood seal. Then, as the blood-red light flickered, Bai Zijing's figure trembled, and he turned into a glowing figure that shot toward Xiao Yan with monstrous murderous intent. Faced with Bai Zijing's all-out attack, Xiao Yan did not make any other choice. He raised his hand and twisted it. The 6 heavenly flames that were slowly rotating behind him immediately turned into a fire ring. It carried a chi-chi sound of rushing wind as it swiftly rotated. At the same time, a tiny black spot gradually agglomerated in front of Xiao Yan. As the black spot condensed in front of Bai Zijing, traces of great Wei power that was invisible to the naked eye also condensed in the surrounding space and gradually merged into the black spot. When Bai Zijing was about to get close to Bai Zijing, a strange aura that contained nirvanic extermination spread out from the black spot. Bas! Bai Haotong's expression changed drastically the moment he sensed this power. The Genesis Chi in his body abruptly began to circulate. His body was just about to move when Bai Zijing's ferocious cry suddenly sounded. A blood-colored hand violently slammed towards Xiao Yan's chest. The surrounding space collapsed at this moment as a sharp bloody aura unfurled. However, a split second later, Buddha's angry reincarnation. Xiao Yan gently tapped the black dot floating in front of him. A roar rang out in his heart, and a beam of black light pierced Bai Zijing's body like a bolt of lightning. Even the space 100 feet behind him was sliced apart by the beam of light. Bai Zijing's charging body abruptly froze along with the beam of light. Chapter 1527. The blood seal scattered and the entire place was silent. Everyone present was stunned as they looked at the calm Xiao Yan. The strength contained in that strange black light beam earlier caused even the few origin venerates present to involuntarily feel shocked. Zijing! Immediately after, a furious roar resounded across the sky. When everyone came back to their senses, the head of the Bai clan, Bai Haotong, had rushed towards Xiao Yan with a murderous look on his face. He pulled Bai Zijing's body back and hurriedly examined him. Cracks had appeared on the Genesis bead in the vortex in Bai Zijing's body. If it couldn't be repaired, his cultivation path would be destroyed. Bai Haotong's murderous look became uncontrollable when he realized this. He turned his head and viciously grabbed at Xiao Yan's face. Little bastard, die!
Given Xiao Yan's cultivation, it was naturally impossible for him to dodge the attack of a 7-star Yuan Zun at close range.
The tent behind him hurriedly appeared as he once again pressed his finger heavily on the black spot in front of him. With all his strength, an enormous black light pillar shot out and violently collided with the palm in front of him. Chi chi chi! Amidst a series of intense hissing sounds, Bai Haotong was actually stopped for a few breaths even with his cultivation. When the black light dispersed and he raised his hand to look at his palm again, the strange power had actually corroded away a layer of flesh on his palm.
What a strange dose skill. It can actually devour everything it touches. After personally experiencing the terror of Xiao Yan's dose skill, killing intent exploded in Bai Haotong's heart. This brat must be killed today. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble in the future. When Bai Haotong raised his head, Xiao Yan had already used the void path to retreat. Xiao Yuheng arrived in a flash and coldly looked at him. Clan head Bai, the outcome of this battle is up to fate. This is what you said. If you do this now, I'm afraid you will damage the Bai clan's reputation. Scram! What dog shit face. This venerable self-son has died miserably in Xiao Yan's hands. Now, he has even destroyed my Zijing. If you do not kill him today, your entire Xiao clan can forget about living in peace. Bai Haotong cursed angrily as his figure shot out. As he raised his hand, the power of the Great Path materialized in his palm and collided fiercely with Xiao Yuheng. As the two of them retreated, Bai Haotong twisted his body and pressed forward. Just as Xiao Yuheng was about to block him, Bai Haotong's figure suddenly flashed and strangely swept past Xiao Yuheng. At the same time, an explosive shout resounded in the heavens and the earth. People of the Bai clan, listen up. Attack together and kill Xiao Yan. As the order rang out, all the White clan members present looked at each other in dismay. Only then did they circulate the Genesis Chi in their bodies and rush forward. Xiao Yuheng, who had turned around, was blocked by a gray-robed elder who had followed closely behind. The Bai clan is preparing to declare war on the Xiao clan. Xiao Yuheng coldly reprimanded as he stared at the figures opposite him with an icy gaze. However, the only thing that greeted him was a sharp energy pillar from the Source Venerate expert. Xiao Yuheng's figure flashed and his gaze swept across the area. The members of the Xiao clan in the distance also rushed out without hesitation and engaged in battle with the experts of the Bai clan that had rushed forward. In the blink of an eye, the sky above Xiao City was filled with battle skills. It was unusually intense. This time, the members of the Xiao clan no longer hesitated. Led by Xiao Yuehua, the young master of the Xiao clan, everyone attacked fiercely. The experts of the Bai clan were all blocked. The strength of the Xiao clan even showed signs of suppressing the Bai clan. At the same time, Bai Haotong's figure turned into a stream of light that passed through the crowd and chased after the retreating Xiao Yan. After a few flashes, he appeared in front of Xiao Yan in the blink of an eye. Die! Clang! The instant the palm landed, a sharp long sword blocked in front of Xiao Yan. Xiao Xian appeared with a hurricane swirling around him. His sword intent soared to the sky. Even someone as strong as Bai Haotong could not help but feel a little troubled. I heard that the Xiao clan has a genius who has mastered 2 great path powers. Is that you? Bai Haotong's tone was sinister as he glanced at the serene orchid sword in Xiao Xian's hand. I don't have a deep impression of the Bai clan. Perhaps it's because you don't have any capable people. Xiao Xian said calmly. An initial stage Source Venerate. Since you insist on seeking death, I will also collect Bai Rong's debt today. Bai Haotong's face could not help but twitch slightly in the face of Xiao Xian's sharp words. He used his palm as a blade and stabbed forward. Xiao Xian blocked it with his sword and the two began to fight. Behind them, Xiao Yan looked at the sky, which had become chaotic in an instant. His gaze swept across the crowd and locked onto the opposite side of the battlefield. There, the seriously injured Bai Zijing was being protected by 2 Bai clan experts. Immediately, killing intent emerged from the bottom of his eyes. Bai Zijing had chased after him several times, and today, he had even brought the Bai clan experts to attack him. Since things had already come to this, why not take this opportunity to put an end to this once and for all? With this thought in mind, Xiao Yan dispersed the ring of fire behind him, and his aura gradually fell to the level of a 7-star Source Venerate. Immediately, a sense of weakness spread out from his body. He hurriedly shook his head and exhaled deeply. After swallowing several Genesis Chi recovery pills, He controlled the 6 heavenly flames in his hands and began to merge them. A long while later, "Chee!" Outside the battle circle, a faint sizzling sound streaked across the void. The people in the fierce battle naturally didn't notice it. Only the few Source Venerables could feel a faint, terrifying aura permeating the surrounding air. Their emotions couldn't help but become slightly uneasy. On the other side of the battlefield, the seriously injured Bai Zijing was doing his best to refine the pills he had swallowed under the care of the 2 8-star Source Venerates beside him. He was completely unaware of what was happening outside. It was only when a figure suddenly flickered in the air nearby that the 2 Source Venerates released the Genesis Chi in their bodies and vigilantly scanned their surroundings. Bang! Suddenly, a black light flashed by, accompanied by the sound of thunder. One of the 2 experts was knocked back by the black shadow, and they were soon entangled in a fight. Bai Ling. The expression of the remaining person changed drastically. When he turned his head, the black-robed Xiao Yan appeared in a ghost-like manner in the empty space in front of him. At the same time, a palm landed gently on his chest. Mountain River Seal. Despite the protection on the surface of his body, this 8-star origin zone was still sent flying while spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. A miserable cry immediately sounded from his mouth. Only at this moment did Bai Haotong and the others in the middle of the battlefield notice Xiao Yan, who was standing beside Bai Zijing in the distance. What? Bai Haotong immediately withdrew from the battle in his great shock. He focused his eyes and looked over. At this moment, there was an extremely beautiful fire lotus slowly floating in Xiao Yan's palm. The annihilation-like strength within it caused Bai Haotong's heart to shatter. With a flip of his wrist, Xiao Yan lifted his hand and was just about to press the fire lotus onto Bai Zijing's body when Bai Haotong's furious shout was abruptly heard. Xiao Yan, don't you dare! If Bai Zijing dies today, my clan and you will not rest until one of us is dead. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan's hand paused for a moment. He slowly turned his head and looked towards Bai Haotong, whose face was filled with killing intent. The corners of his mouth curled into a sinister arc as he pressed the fire lotus down without any hesitation. In the next instant, an earth-shaking explosion pierced the sky. Chapter 1528. An earth-shattering explosion swept across the sky. Apart from the Origin Venerables, everyone else in the sky hastily retreated. Once the shockwaves from such a terrifying explosion spread, even a high-tier Origin ancestor would not be able to guarantee that they would not be hammered to death. After the shockwaves passed, a huge wave of wind followed. Several figures flashed through the waves of flames, and after a few low sounds of collision, both sides quickly retreated from the range of the explosion. After a long time, when the energy storm dissipated, the 2 clans faced each other in the sky. Xiao Yan was flanked by Xiao Yuhing and the others, while the North King stood in front of him. Behind him was a group of cold gazes that stared fearlessly at the White Clan's powerhouses. As for Bai Haotong, he was currently holding Bai Zijing, who looked like a rag in his hand. His aura was extremely furious, and his murderous intent surged toward Xiao Yan. Even though he had tried his best earlier, he had only been able to drag Bai Zijing, who was barely alive, back to him. Judging from the current situation, Bai Zijing's chances of survival were slim. Xiao Yan! Bai Haotong gritted his teeth as he breathed rapidly. The fury in his chest was like a volcano that was about to erupt. Kill! With a sudden roar, Bai Haotong's body charged forward, but at that moment, a gray-robed elder beside him roared in a hoarse voice. Patriarch, we can't afford to waste any more time today. Bai Haotong's body trembled when he heard this roar. He turned around and saw that the auras of the White Clan's powerhouses were in chaos. Many of them had been seriously injured in the previous battle, and even the 2 gray-robed elders' auras were somewhat unstable. On the other hand, the Xiao Clan's people all took a step forward when they looked over. Their fierce auras immediately swept towards the White Clan's powerhouses, instantly suppressing their auras. The outcome of this battle was self-evident. Xiao Yuhing slowly stepped forward and swept his gaze across the White Clan's people. His gaze returned to Bai Haotong. Bai Haotong, I advise you to stop as soon as possible. If you continue fighting, I don't mind letting the White Clan lose 3 Origin Venerables. You! Patriarch! Bai Haotong was just about to flare up in anger when the 2 gray-robed elders beside him hurriedly spoke out to stop him. They really didn't have the strength to fight today. On the spot, Bai Haotong clenched his fists tightly. He looked at the dying Bai Zijing in the arms of a clansman. The scarlet killing intent in his eyes was forcefully suppressed. He swung his sleeves and roared angrily, filled with unwillingness. Retreat! The members of the Shao clan finally heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this group of dejected fellows leave. A smile surfaced on Xiao Yan's pale face. He turned his head to look at Xiao Yuhing beside him and bowed respectfully. Thank you, Patriarch and Elders, for stepping in. Seeing this, Xiao Yuhing chuckled and helped Xiao Yan up. We're all family. There's no need to thank me for such a thing. You, on the other hand, have already blocked that guy. As long as you don't show up, the Bai family won't be able to do anything. Xiao Yuehua's beautiful eyes paused on Xiao Yan as she spoke in a slightly reproachful tone. They have already swaggered up to us. If I don't show up, wouldn't I be at a disadvantage? Xiao Yan smiled. Forget it. You guys go back first. I will order Xiao City to strengthen its defenses to prevent the Bai family from launching a sneak attack. Xiao Yuehua helplessly shook her head. She turned around and quickly flew towards the city below. In the sky, the group of Shao clan experts left one after another, leaving behind Xiao Xiaojun and the other juniors. After Xiao Yuhing gave a few simple instructions, he also slowly disappeared into the void. Xiao Yan slowly clenched his fist as he looked in the direction that the experts from the Bai clan had left. He understood in his heart that from today onwards, he and the Bai clan would end up in a situation where they could not live under the same sky. At the same time, he also knew that the people he would have to face in the future would not only be the experts from the Origin sect. Having offended an existence at Bai Haotong's level, it was likely that he would have to be even more careful when doing things in the middle region. Don't worry. Although the Bai family is strong, they are just so-so in the eyes of our Shao clan. After today, they will not dare to easily invade us. Xiao Xiaojun gently patted Xiao Yan's shoulder as if he could see the apprehension in his heart. Xiao Yan's name resounded over the entire Shao clan's territory after the soul-stirring battle with Bai Zijing in the sky above Shao City. Many factions within the middle region began to have rumors related to him. There were an uncountable number of people within the Shao clan who spread the news of his battle results. Although many people were not present during the battle back then, they spoke of it with great interest as though they had personally witnessed it. In an instant, all the young people within the Shao clan regarded Xiao Yan as their benchmark. While Xiao Yan's name was spreading everywhere, the latter was quietly cultivating in the back mountain of the Shao clan. After going through such a huge battle, the exhaustion on his body was naturally enormous. However, the result of such exhaustion was a high desire for strength in his body. Under this kind of collision, Xiao Yan's own strength had also improved a little. Although this kind of improvement was extremely slow, it could already be considered a great help to him, who had just consolidated his strength not long ago. Outside the ancestral hall of the Shao clan, Xiao Yan came here with a heart full of hope. When he recalled his previous experience, a trace of unhappiness involuntarily flashed across his heart. However, he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. The moment he stepped into the courtyard, he saw a familiar figure. Xiao Yang. Xiao Yan was a little surprised when he saw the person in front of him. The latter smiled and said coldly, "It is all thanks to you that I have the opportunity to participate in the clan ceremony." Xiao Yan was a little stunned when he heard this. Soon after, he seemed to have understood something. He gently shrugged his shoulders and declined to comment. "I have heard about what happened a few days ago. You are indeed more terrifying than I imagined. It is a pity that I was not in Shao City that day. By the time I rushed back, the matter had already ended." "It's all right. Since you are already here, you are not here to tell me this." Xiao Yan smiled when he heard Xiao Yang's respectful words. It was really rare for this fellow to say such words. After the two of them spoke, the tightly shut stone door of the ancestral hall in the depths of the courtyard finally opened slowly. The person who walked out was the first elder, Xiao Zhen. First elder. The two of them did not dare to slight the old man when they saw him. Xiao Zhen nodded his head in response. His turbid old eyes paused on Xiao Yan for a moment. After which, he looked at Xiao Yang and said slowly, "Come in." The two of them looked at each other. They took a deep breath and stepped into the ancestral hall together. At the same time, a slightly excited emotion rapidly surged in the chests of Xiao Yan and Xiao Yang. After 2 years, the clan ceremony was finally here.